Good evening and welcome once again to 428 Shibuya Scramble. So last time we got pretty far into Kano and Achi's stories, and we finished up Tama, our poor lady who's caught in a mascot costume. So we're done with Kano and Tama for this block of time. Now we're going to have to deal with Achi, who is at a dead end currently. And then we're going to have to do these two new characters who were not in the first time slot. Neither was Tama either. So we have Osawa and Minorikawa. So we're going to start, I think, with Minorikawa. Let's see what his story is all about. Let's begin. Alright, the Super Cub 90 raced down Route 246 towards Shibuya. The Super Cub 90, a motorcycle produced by Honda with an 85cc engine displacement, a common sight around town, often used by newspaper and postal delivery workers. Many owners are big enthusiasts, sometimes even swapping out parts such as the handlebars or mufflers and giving the body a repaint, resulting in fashionable bikes. They don't even look like Super Cubs at first glance. The speedometer remained at a steady 60 kilometers per hour. Pumping the gas harder was no use. This was as fast as the bike would go. Minorikawa shouted as he sped along. "Damn it! I am not letting you die!" He jerked the handlebars and blew past a truck on the inside. The driver scowled at him as he shot by. "You maniac! You trying to get yourself killed?" "Just the opposite," Minorikawa shouted back. "I'm saving lives!" The stoplight ahead turned red, cutting him off at the intersection. "Oh, come on!" He had no choice but to slam on the brakes, but his agitation boiled over as he waited for the signal to change again. "How long is this thing gonna stay red? Hurry up already!" He brought the bike right up to the very edge of the line, keeping the engine revved like a dragster ready to peel out. "Not on time is not in my dictionary." The light turned red. Then Minorikawa's own light turned green at last. He hit the accelerator as hard as he could. His engine died with a sputter. Huh? Oh, come on. What the hell? Car horns blared angrily behind him. In a fury, he pulled his bike over to the side of the road. No matter what he did, the engine refused to turn over. Was the problem with the spark plug, or maybe the battery? Whatever it was, he didn't have the time to figure it out now. With tears in his eyes, he left the bike, his companion of 10 years, abandoned on the roadside. He was about to break into a run when he saw a taxi dead ahead, letting out a passenger. He hurried to hop into the cab. "Just head for Shibuya Station. I'll let you know exactly where once we get closer." The taxi driver nodded coolly. "Of course, sir." 10 minutes! I need you to get me there in 10 minutes! The driver grimaced. "I'm afraid getting there in 10 minutes is a bit..." 15 then! "Sir, that's still..." "Look, that's all the time I can afford. Assuming traffic conditions cooperate, sir, then maybe. I can't make any promises." Minorikawa looked at the driver's ID photo above the fare meter. His name was Hachiro Kimazuka. He was a middle-aged fellow, looking a little rough around the edges. "Mr. Kimazuka, I chose you for this. You can do it." "Chose me? Sir, I'm pretty certain we met by chance." "Okay, sure. I suppose you could phrase it that way. Anyhow, can we get going?" "Right," Kimazuka said with a faint sigh. "I'll see what I can do." The taxi pulled away at a decent clip. Minorikawa's frantic journey had started 20 minutes earlier. He'd been at home, working on an interview piece. He clucked his tongue in annoyance as the ringing phone broke his train of thought. Why did someone always call right when the words were flowing? If he didn't keep getting interrupted, he could probably wrap this up in no time. "Be quiet!" He pointed at the telephone as he yelled. "I'm writing here!" but his shouting did nothing to silence the ringing. He didn't have much choice but to pick it up. Minorikawa speaking. There was no response. Hello? He hesitated, ready to hang up. Was this a prank call? It's me. It's Toyama. It was Teru Toyama, the president of Heaven Publishing. Heaven Publishing, a publishing company that puts out both hard-hitting non-fiction books and tabloid-style scandal rags. The Invincible Journalist, penned by company president Toyama himself, was a candidate for the Japan Non-Fiction Prize. Oh, what do you want? If this is about work, I'm already booked pretty full. He'd taken work from Heaven Publishing on several occasions, but the pay was hardly competitive. Lately, he'd been turning them down a lot, so he hadn't heard from Toyama in a while. No, this isn't work-related. Then what do you want? I'm kind of pressed for time here, working on some copy. Minorikawa was in no mood to beat around the bush. It seemed like every conversation he had with Toyama went like this. Ah, you're busy. That's good. Busy's good when you're a freelancer. Toyama sounded unusually sympathetic. Minorikawa found it off-putting. I hear sales have been good on your end, he said cautiously, with this month's 4-Star General Gossip and all. 4-Star General Gossip was a monthly magazine, Heaven Publishing's flagship publication. 4-Star General Gossip, a magazine focusing on the private lives of celebrities and politicians. Most of the articles found in its pages are random nonsense, but 1 out of every 100 or so contains an actual major scoop, making it a difficult outlet to ignore. It had a small circulation and, for the most part, flew under the radar, but once in a while they'd land some big scoop and sell like crazy. This month's edition had come with a free scratch card, a gimmick that had moved 100,000 copies with ease. 5 winning symbols in a row wins 100,000 yen, was it? Minorikawa asked. A weak, moist sound came through the receiver. Baffled, Minorikawa listened more closely. It came again, then again. It kind of sounded like sobbing. Mr. Toyama, are you crying? There was another soft sob, and then yet another. What's going on? Where are you? Minorikawa asked. At the office, Toyama managed. He let out another mewling whimper. What's the matter? It's nothing. Well, it's got to be something. Come on, what is it? Toyama gave no reply. Mr. Toyama, you still there? Silence. What is it? What happened? Look, doesn't tell me anything. What the hell is going on? Toyama squeaked out a drawn-out whine. Okay, I'm sick of this. I'm hanging up now. Minorikawa was about to break the connection when he heard Toyama murmur. The only thing I can do now is die. The taxi lurched to a sudden stop as the driver slammed on the brakes. Oh! Minorikawa pitched forward, his face smacking against the back of the seat in front of him. Kimizuka stuck his head out the window. Careful, buddy! He shouted at someone in the street ahead. You're going to get yourself killed! As we remember, that was Kano running in front of the car, dealing with his potential father-in-law. Oh, there he is. Minorikawa blinked the stars from his eyes and saw a man moving alongside the cab. The guy grabbed onto the handle of the back door. Please, I need you to let me have this cab. No way, Minorikawa snapped. Just who did this guy think he was? Please, I'm begging you here. Look, I'm in a hurry, pal. Get your own cab. I know how ridiculous this must sound, but please, this is really, really urgent. Urgent? Yes, it's a matter of life or death. Please. The guy did look pretty desperate. Look, I'm sorry, but I'm dealing with something urgent here, too. Then let me ride with you. I'll pay for the whole fare. My entire future's on the line here. The guy sure was persistent. Maybe he was telling the truth. But Minorikawa had problems of his own. Sorry, buddy. It's life or death on my end, too. I gotta look after me and mine. Right. So sorry to trouble you. Finally, the guy gave up and shuffled away. Guess it couldn't have been that much of a life-ending crisis after all. Minorikawa checked his wristwatch. Damn it! That just cost us 5 minutes. I'll try to make it up, sir, the driver called back. The taxi lurched into motion, the engine quickly revving up to speed. Once inside the building, he avoided the elevator in favor of rushing up the stairs. Heaven Publishing rented out the 3rd and 4th floors. In all likelihood, Toyama would be at the editing department of 4-star General Gossip on the 4th floor. When he got there, however, the door was locked. Mr. Toyama! Hey, Mr. Toyama! He shouted and banged, but there was no reply. Something was seriously wrong. Minoru Kawa took a deep breath and kicked the door in. Whoa! The sight as he stepped into the office filled him with horror. Minoru Kawa clutched the sides of his head. I'm too late. Oh no! If only I'd gotten here a little sooner. Bad ending. Just 5 minutes. Ah. So, something we did with Kano messed that guy's route up. How about we go, change that right real quick, eh? Let's go take care of that. Let's see. Was that here, I think? I think it was, yeah. Head to the cafe. No, right now I've got a job to focus on. Yeah, we'll do that. Kano shook his head to clear out the foolish impulses. What the hell had he been thinking? A girl's life was on the line. Marrying Rumi was more important to him than anything, but now wasn't the time. Besides, now that he thought about it, running out on a critical investigation to meet with the old man probably wasn't going to score him any points. Rumi's dad didn't strike him as someone who'd approve of shirking one's responsibilities. Kano would just have to wrap up this kidnapping case a little ahead of schedule. Then he could have a proper sit-down with Shizuo. As he considered his plan, he caught sight of the man with the attaché case walking by. Alright, I think... Is this... where we're at? Yeah, I think this is... Yes, this is going back to it. So... we just made a different choice. Let's see if that changes Minoru Kawa's story, eh? Started 20 minutes earlier. Oh, okay. We'll... yeah, so how do we... skip dialogue, because we're like, we already know all this. Press will activate autoplay function. Speed during press A. The autoplay will stop. That's weird. There must not be a way to... skip this stuff, I guess? Well, we'll go through it again, I guess. Or... I don't know. We'll go through it and see what happens. Actually, I'm gonna look real quick at Kano. Did we change Kano's story? Yeah, we chose B, right? So Kano isn't gonna mess with the car. So we're good there. That would lead to the train station and all that. she's all done. For now, I think. And we have Achi's stuff right now. So yeah, I guess we have to do... Yeah. Alright, so we'll just try to get through this as quickly as possible. It's a little annoying that we have to skip through dialogue we've already seen. So we're gonna get... Wait, what was that? Adjust brightness. That's interesting. Alright, so we'll work our way through here, and then we'll get to the next parts. Alright, we'll get to this here. Yep. Alright, so it looks like... There we go. 10 minutes on the dot, the driver announced. Norikawa righted himself and looked out the window. Shibuya Station. I knew you could do it, Mr. Kimazuka. He told the driver how to get to Heaven Publishing. It shouldn't be more than 5 minutes further. Sir, if I may ask, just what are you in such a hurry over? Son of a bitch. I beg your pardon? Kimazuka bristled. Not you, the guy who's waiting on me, Norikawa said. I'm going to give that son of a bitch a piece of my mind. The multi-tenant building, where Heaven Publishing had its offices, came into view. The taxi stopped outside, and Norikawa opened the door as he hurriedly reached for his wallet. Then he stopped. What if the worst had come to pass and he needed to take Toyama to the hospital? Should he have the taxi wait here, or would it be better to call an ambulance? Sir, is there a problem? The driver asked. Yeah, let's have him wait. Wait here, I'll be right back. Norikawa was out of the cab in an instant, running for the building. Once inside, he avoided the elevator in favor of rushing up the stairs. Heaven Publishing rented out the 3rd and 4th floors. In all likelihood, Toyama would be at the editing department of 4-star General Gossip on the 4th floor. I wonder if having him wait here does something later. When he got there, however, the door was locked. Mr. Toyama, hey, Mr. Toyama, he shouted and banged, but there was no reply. Something was seriously wrong. Okay, he kicked the door in. Okay. Whoa! Toyama was sitting on a stool, about to slip his head through a noose that hung from the ceiling. What the hell are you doing? Norikawa lunged for Toyama. The two men crashed to the floor in a tangled heap. A pile of clutter slid off a nearby desk and fell on top of them. Norikawa, what are you doing? Toyama whined. Dragging himself back to his feet proved something of a challenge. That's what I'd like to know. Norikawa's fury was mounting. What the hell is all this about? He jabbed an accusing finger at the noose hanging from the ceiling. Oh, that. One of the fluorescent lights died, and I was just swapping it out. Don't you feed me that bull. What was that phone call all about? That business about how the only thing you could do was die. Tell me. Ha ha ha, just a joke. Toyama curled his lips into a faint semblance of a smile. Norikawa wasn't buying it, but he didn't have time to press the issue. A cute little voice echoed through the editing office. Daddy, I'm back from the store. A little girl came walking in, carrying a length of rubber gas tubing. It was Toyama's 5th grade daughter, Hana. Taro Toyama's only daughter, currently 10 years old. The night Hana was born at Shibuya Central Hospital, there was an unexpected fireworks display outside the window of the maternity ward. As he looked out at the bursting rockets, Teru decided to name his daughter Hana after the Japanese word for fireworks, Hanabi. Minorikawa stared. Toyama, you were planning on using that hose to... He hesitated to end his sentence with gas yourself to death. Well, you know, it's almost gas heater season after all. The hell it is. It was a beautiful, sunny April day outside. We know how sensitive I am to the cold. This was getting truly ridiculous. Minorikawa got right up in his face. Listen, just explain to me what the heck is going on, okay? He kept his voice low, but his eyes were steely. Hana clung tightly to her father, gazing worriedly up at the two men. No, it's just... Toyama let out a long, heavy sigh of resignation. Uh-oh. Keep out. To progress further, you'll need to jump from another protagonist. Sometimes jump keywords might be hidden within a tip. A man named Junichi Yanagishita shows up in Tama's story at 11:20, and he lets out a sigh like Toyama. Start checking the tip for that sigh. Oh, right. I remember that. Well, let's go take care of that. At 11:20. Alright. There we go. I'm glad they have the jump point. It's readily available. Mr. Yeah, he lets out a sigh. Jump. No, it's just... Toyama let out a long, heavy sigh of resignation. It's the scratch cards that were in 4-star General Gossip. A type of lottery card featuring areas printed with a special silver ink. These silver inked areas can be scratched off with just a fingertip or coin to reveal potential winnings, providing a quick speed lotto fix. In order to prevent the symbols or letters underneath the silver from showing through, the back of the card is printed in black. Somehow you always seem to lose when you've got your hopes up, but manage to win when you least expect it. That's where the problem is. And what is the problem? If you shine a light on the cards from behind, you can see where the winning symbols are. Whoa. I messed things up dealing with the printing company. All of this, he gestured vaguely. It's my fault, my responsibility. He proceeded to explain the situation in detail. Word was quick to leak on the internet that there was a way to find the winning symbols. And suddenly, thousands of card holders turned up en masse to collect. Heaven Publishing was hit with a massive financial liability, and the employees rushed to flee a sinking ship. Before Toyama realized it, he was the only one left at the company, and he was up against the deadline for next month's 4-star General Gossip. If I have to drop next month's issue, I'll be stuck in debt even deeper. And if that happens, I'm finished. Toyama gave a dismal groan. So don't drop the issue, Minorikawa snapped. He pounded his fist right into the side of the cardboard box. Toyama shook his head weakly. I've been up for 3 days straight trying to fill out the pages. It's not enough. I can't do the impossible. He dropped his gaze to the floor. Countless scratch cards lay scattered about. They had probably been amidst the pile that had fallen off the desk earlier. Each card showed a neat row of 5 win symbols. You can't know if it's impossible if you don't see them through. I'll never make it in time. The proof needs to be done by 8 o'clock this evening. Proof, the final stage before printing. When the copy or manuscript is checked for errors, not sending corrected proofs to the printer before the deadline can result in the book or magazine in question not making it onto the shelves in time for release day. Well then, Minorikawa thought to himself. He let out a sigh and now was held out to Hannah. Hannah, would you mind giving me that hose? Hannah gave her father a quick look, then handed the rubber hose to Minorikawa. This won't be necessary. He tossed the rubber hose into the trash, then jabbed his finger at Toyama. Show me the layout and the draft proposal for next month's issue. Toyama blinked a few times in disbelief. Huh? You can't possibly be serious. I'm trying to help. Now show me the layout and the proposal before I change my mind. After a brief, incredulous pause, Toyama hurried off to grab the paperwork. A layout in publishing speak is an outline of a magazine showing which articles will occupy which pages. Minoru Kawa gave it a quick once-over, finding that 12 of the pages were still blank and untouched. He wanted to punch whatever writers had been assigned to those pages. "See what I mean?" Toyama said. "It's hopeless." He sounded perversely proud of his failure. Getting enough material to fill 12 pages by 8 o'clock? Yeah, it was definitely a tall order, all right. "Says who?" Minoru Kawa replied. "Remember who you're talking to here." "You seriously think you can do it?" "You're joking, right?" Minoru Kawa shot back. "I seriously know I can do it. There's nothing in this world that I hate more than a bad joke." "Why are you doing this for me?" Toyama was getting misty-eyed. "I'm not doing it for you, you spineless wimp. I'm doing this for poor little Hana." "Minoru Kawa, I'm so sorry." Toyama bowed his head so deeply, Minoru Kawa thought he might put his face through the floor. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your daughter." "Oh, forgive me. Please forgive me, Hana." Toyama clutched her tightly in his arms. The girl hugged him back on the verge of tears. "Hey now, enough of the waterworks. I've got your backs. Don't you worry about a thing." Minoru Kawa picked up the draft proposal for the pages that needed filling. The words Shibuya Scuttlebutt Special were plastered across the cover sheet in big, bold type. Okay, so a 12-page special edition block on Shibuya. Fair enough. And first on the docket, drink yourself thin with burning hammer. This reeked of a scam. The only way drinking more of something would make you lose weight would be if it were mixed with a laxative, probably. Still, there wasn't enough time to tweak the layout plan now. According to the proposal write-up, a product demo was scheduled for 1 p.m. that day. The location put on the map was blurry and hard to make out, but Minoru Kawa had a rough idea where it was. It looked like he didn't have much of a choice but to swing by in the hopes of getting more material. He scanned further along into the proposal. Society of Surveillance. Hidden cameras installed throughout Shibuya. The rise and fall of Shibuya's vigilante squad. Where are they now? Washed up screenwriter showcase. Sexy squared. Twins share top prize at local university beauty contest. Shibuya now. Black market organ trafficking in Shibuya. Shadowy foreign crime syndicate exposed. These 7 pages were to fill the 12 empty pages. That was the problem at any rate, but there wasn't enough material there to make any headway. The Shibuya Now article didn't even have any proposed content. This sucked. Hardcore. It didn't look like there was much material for the rise and fall of Shibuya's vigilante squad either. The note suggested that a few years prior, a group of youngsters in Shibuya had banded together to help fight crime in their neighborhoods. At this point, however, things had flipped around and they'd become a gang of street punks themselves. That must be Achi's group, that he's no longer the leader of. A turn to the dark side. It had the makings of an interesting article, to be sure, but tracking down this gang would take time. Minoru Kawa was personally intrigued by the one about organ harvesting in Shibuya. The rumor was that organs were being smuggled out of Southeast Asia and fenced locally at a tremendous price. There was even a plan to ascertain the authenticity of those claims. Fascinating. If Minoru Kawa was going to be spending all day gathering other material, though, he didn't have much time to spare for it. Shibuya Now. The rise and fall of Shibuya's vigilante squad. Black market organ trading in Shibuya. Minoru decided that one of those 3 would have to go. He thought about it long and hard as he stared at the draft proposal. There was a good chance he'd really screw himself over if he picked the wrong one. Finally, he decided to cut. I don't know. Probably the organ one, because the other 2 we know that there's something on. Finally, he decided to cut black market organ traffic in Shibuya. It had the potential to be the most interesting, but getting the material would take way too long. His goal was to make sure that the gossip made it to press at all. Society of Surveillance, where are they now? Sexy Squared, those 3 pieces of individuals slated for interviews. But no appointees had been made with any of them. Unscheduled interviews were a dicey prospect. Minoru Kawa decided to call them up on his cell as he made his way down the list. The other one he managed to get a hold of was Shinosuke Orai from the Where Are They Now piece. Shinosuke Orai, a former broadcast writer, has appeared on various popular variety shows on commercial network Sun TV. He currently heads up a small theater troupe known as the Wandering Angels, operating out of Shibuya. Later today, the troupe is putting on a performance at Theater Ace in Sakura Gaokacho. He said he'd be willing to give a 15-minute interview after 2:30. Minoru sighed. He'd just have to get material from the others in a more impromptu fashion then. Putting his nose to the grindstone, he stared, throwing to get... Oh, wrong button. For the day. Was it possible to get all that in material and read it up and still finish the whole thing by 8 o'clock? It was no use. No matter how he tweaked it, none of his simulations ended with him having a proof ready on time. He just needed one more thing, and that was another writer. Minoru zoomed through his contacts list, calling up the freelancers he knew. The results were depressing. Answering machines, overseas on business, in the hospital, currently doing time. Before long, he'd called everyone he could think of, except for one. Novice freelancer, Chiaki Iso. Chiaki was a bit more of an odd duck, a reporter who was scared of talking to people. Minoru had never known anyone who became so hopelessly flustered in a one-on-one setting. Hopelessly flustered, in such a rattled state as to be unable to speak. Chiaki's tendency to become flustered is famous among her freelance writer colleagues. Once she conducted an hour-long interview during which she only managed to ask the interview subject's name. Yet another chapter in the legend of hopelessly flustered Chiaki. If she couldn't talk to people, she certainly couldn't do interviews. And if she couldn't get any real interview content, she wouldn't be able to write much in the way of copy. Would she come to his aid if asked? Quite probably. The issue was whether she would hinder more than help. Yeah, let's get Chiaki in on this. There was no time for beggars to be choosers. Minoru decided to call up Chiaki. The phone rang several times before a sleepy voice answered. Sound only. Hello? Chiaki, hi, it's Minoru. Are you free today? Huh? What? She seemed thrown by the abrupt question. Did you just wake up? Huh? No, I mean, well, yeah. Good morning. Her voice still sounded half asleep. So then I'm guessing you don't have any work slated for today. As usual. Pretty much. No work, no money, no food. Nothing to do except sleep. If I'm not awake, I can't dwell on how hungry I am. She didn't sound well. Almost like she literally didn't have anything to eat. Well, I've got work for you. I'm over at 4-Star General Gossip. Get over here, ASAP. What? You really mean it? That seemed to finally wake her up. Yeah, but hurry. Minoru decided he assigned Chiaki to the Shibuya Now piece. I want you to start by getting interviews off the street around Shibuya Station. Street interviews? Chiaki's voice came out as a nervous squeak. But, Mr. Mino, street interviews aren't really my, Kid, you were just telling me how you can't afford to eat. Can you really afford to be picky right now? Well, I mean, I guess not. The piece is called Shibuya Now. Just interview at least 10 people and get me an article by 6 o'clock. Okay. He quickly explained the kind of interviews he was after and then hung up. Okay, I've gotten us another writer. We'll get through Toyama somehow. Toyama shrugged gloomily. Well, yeah, the thing is, there's actually one more problem. Are you kidding me? Minoru couldn't hide the irritation in his voice. What is it now? The loan company is sending a debt collector over at 4 o'clock, but as you can imagine, I don't have a single yen to give them. That's less than ideal, yeah. So what's the plan? Well, they said provisionally that if next month's issue gets published, they'll be willing to wait on repayment. Then there's no problem. The issue's coming out guaranteed. But they're not going to take my word on that anymore. I'm going to need to prove it. If we could fill, say, half of the 12 pages by the time they show up, I could probably convince them. Alright, Minoru said wearily. So for starters, we need 6 pages by 4 o'clock. You had to get all 12 pages done as it was. That made a perfect midpoint to shoot for. Any other problems you'd like to let me know about? No, Toyama said. No, that's all. I really am sorry about this, Minoru. Again, he bowed his head low. Minoru felt distinctly awkward. He had known Toyama for years and had never been kowtowed to like this before. Yeah, well, just let me handle it, alright? Minoru unfolded a map of Shibuya. The first order of business was deciding where to begin getting content. He marked the editing office with a circle, then considered where to head next. Diet Drink Sales Demo. Where are they now? Society of Surveillance. Sexy Squared. Midoriyama Academy. a university associated with Midoriyama High School. Notable alumni include famous actress Masami Nagahama and National High School Baseball Championship winning pitcher the Tissue Prince. Okay. Its educational philosophy is summed up in its slogan, words, skill, and beauty. A very high percentage of winners of Miss Midoriyama contests go on to careers in the entertainment industry. Shibuya Vigilantes. The diet drink sales demo was at 1 o'clock, and the interview with Shinosuke Orai for Where Are They Now was slated for 2:30, so those times were set. The question was, what to do in the interim? Let's go there. It was a bit of a hike, but maybe we should go to Dogenzaka and check out Endo Electronics. Yeah, that should give him what he needed to put together the Society of Surveillance piece. Okay, I'm heading out. And don't even think about doing anything else stupid while I'm out. Got it? Minoru Kawa hustled out of the editing office, hoping Toyama would take his admonition to heart. Exiting the building, he hopped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Thanks for waiting. Can you get me to Dokenzaka ASAP? Son of a bitch. Minoru Kawa bristled. I beg your pardon? That son of a bitch you wanted to give a piece of your mind, sir. Was he waiting for you, like you expected? Oh, yeah! And I damn well did give him a piece of my mind, too. Glad to hear it, sir. The taxi sped up. Minoru Kawa pulled out the proposal and looked it over again. The idea for the surveillance story revolved around the claim that hidden cameras had been installed throughout Shibuya's shopping districts, upwards of 500 of them. Supposedly, these eliminated lots of blind spots and the crime rate in the area dropped significantly. The cameras were managed by Daisuke Endo, the owner of Endo Electronics and chairman of the local downtown committee. That was Minoru Kawa's first mission then. He needed to get this guy's story. Scanning the side of the road, Minoru Kawa finally spotted a run-down electronics shop. The sign out front, which looked like it might fall off at any moment, read Endo Electronics. Right here's fine. The taxi stopped, and Minoru Kawa pulled a 10,000 yen bill from his wallet. Keep the change, he said. What? Look, don't sweat it. The name's Minoru Kawa, and I'm a freelance writer. Care about two things. What's real and what's true. There's real worth to what you've done for me. That there is a token of my appreciation. It's not much, but please take it. Minoru Kawa slid out of the taxi and headed for the electronics store. Inside, Endo Electronics looked more like a mountain of hoarded junk than an actual business. Towering piles of ancient appliances stretched toward the ceiling. Old television sets with dial knobs leaned against computers with 5-inch floppy drives. 5-inch floppy drives, a storage medium for personal computers in production from 1976 to 2001. The magnetic discs are sheathed in paper or plastic jackets and are known for their tendency to flop around in one hand. Technically speaking, they are 5.25 inches in diameter. Incidentally, Door, released in 1983, the debut title from this game's producer, Koichi Nakamura, was produced in a 5-inch floppy version. Well, isn't that fun? Yeah, Spec Chunsoft used to just be called Chunsoft, and they have been around forever. They made a lot of stuff. I think they were even involved in the Dragon Quest series, which is a series that hasn't gotten quite the same acclaim as stuff like Final Fantasy has over here in the United States, but it's really big over in Japan. Anyway, the more you know. What possible use could there be for all this outdated stuff? Mr. Endo, are you in here? Minoru Kawa called out. Nobody came to greet him. The shop was definitely open, though. Surely the proprietor hadn't left it unattended. Hey, Mr. Endo, come on, I know you're in there. After a short wait, Minoru Kawa heard sounds in the living space behind the shop. The door opened to reveal a tired-looking, middle-aged man. Yeah, what do you want? Are you Mr. Endo? Minoru Kawa asked. I am, the man said guardedly. And I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle of something at the moment. Could you come back tomorrow, or please, just give me a minute. I'm a freelance writer. Name's Minoru Kawa. Minoru Kawa showed Endo his business card. I'm writing an article for 4-Star General Gossip. Huff, a magazine piece, huh? Precisely. So if I could just have a little of your time today. The phone rang, cutting him off before he could get down to business. I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me for a moment. Enzo reached into the clutter and pulled out a telephone. Hello, Endo Electronics. The proprietor listened for a moment, then raised an eyebrow. Yeah, that's a problem, all right. All right, understood. I'll try and get a hold of the customer then. Endo set the receiver back down. What was that all about? Minorikawa asked. Oh, yesterday I sold a dry ice machine, and the manufacturer just called me to let me know the model is defective. Defective? Apparently, once it starts making dry ice, it won't stop. I need to tell the customer I have to recall the machine and refund their deposit. Please give me a moment. Endo sifted through some sales slips, read a number off of one, and made a phone call. Nobody picked up on the other end, however. That's right, he grumbled to himself. He said they had some performance today. Performance? Minorikawa asked. I sold it to a guy from some theater troupe. They're called the Wandering Angels or something. The Wandering Angels. A theater group run by Shinosuke Orai. This afternoon at 5 p.m. they're performing their 22nd piece, Au Revoir. Right now, all of the actors are already at the theater except for Akiomi Mondo, who plays the rival of the main character Ryu. The angry production chief has sent his assistant to Mondo's apartment, but he does not know what awaits him there. Continued in The Tale of the Wandering Angels, Episode 2. 6 episodes in all. The Wandering Angels, that was Shinosuke Orai's theater troupe. Minorikawa had an interview with him booked for 2:30. Anyway, what can I do for you? Minorikawa hastily explained what he was after. Endo gave him a dubious look. As I said earlier, I'm a bit busy right now. Busy cleaning up, I hope. How do you get anything done in this mess? Why, are you this rude to all your interview subjects? 5 minutes! Just give me 5 minutes of your time. Please! You've got to be joking. Go on, get the hell out of here. Endo headed for his back room in a huff. Fine then. I'll just have to write about what you've already told me. Namely, that Endo Electronics sells defective merchandise. Just what are you implying? Did you, or did you not, sell that theater troupe a defective piece of equipment? Look, I'm getting in touch with them as soon as... I'm betting they're in a hurry preparing for their performance. I doubt you'll be getting through to them today. Endo bit his lip. Now that I have your attention, Minorikawa said, let's make a deal. What kind of deal? I'm meeting with a member of the Wandering Angels a little later today. I can let them know about the dry ice machine for you. In exchange, all you have to do is give me my interview. Endo scowled. And where's your proof that you'll be meeting with the Wandering Angels? I might take advantage of a guy when he's down, Minorikawa replied. But one thing I'm not is a liar. The shopkeeper took a few minutes to think about it. Fine, he grumbled. 5 minutes, that's all you'll get. Minorikawa whipped his notepad out of his coat like he was drawing a gun. Then let's get right down to it, shall we? Go right ahead. So I hear that over 500 surveillance cameras have been installed throughout Shibuya's shopping districts. Yes, that's right. Why so many? We used to have a lot of delinquents in town. Delinquents, young people who act rowdy or cause trouble, often at arcades or convenience store parking lots, and who frequently resort to petty theft and other mischief, also referred to in more outmoded terms as ruffians or hoodlums. Endo said the word with marked distaste. Delinquents. Oh yeah, I remember there being some problem kids around. They were real punks. They vandalized my signs, made a mess of my storehouse. They were just awful. I see. Minorikawa scrambled diligently in his notepad. Heck, my own son put together a sort of vigilante squad to help teach those punks a lesson. Wait. Vigilante squad? Well, hold up right there for a second. Minorikawa jutted out his hand to interrupt. This guy's son was part of the vigilante squad? What a stroke of luck. Maybe he could also provide some info for the article on the gangs of Shibuya. Sorry, I don't mean to get too off the topic here, but could you tell me the name of this group your son belongs to? They call themselves SOS. SOS. Originally a group of well-meaning young people who would get together downtown as sort of a vigilante squad, trying to keep Shibuya clean and safe. In those days, the group never engaged in theft or other criminal activities. More recently, however, SOS has become one of the biggest gangs in Shibuya, resorting to defacing public property with graffiti, shoplifting, and shaking people down for cash. They prided themselves on being the top gang in Shibuya and all that. The top gang in Shibuya? Did I really just hit jackpot here? Not to pat myself on the back, but go me. All I have to do is step outside and the story finds me. I think I might be a natural at this. As it happens, I'd also like to interview people from SOS. Would you be able to put me in touch with your son? Yeah, sure, but you should know that my son isn't in the gang anymore. Ah, this'll take us to Achi's story again. Let's finish Minorikawa's story, and then we'll get to Achi. Oh, Minorikawa hesitated. Guess he's of no use to me then. Oh, believe me, I know how you feel. The look on Endo's face spoke volumes. There was no point interviewing Endo's son if he wasn't with the gang anymore. It figured that Minorikawa's run of good luck would end eventually. Still, he'd gotten a lead in the form of a name, SOS. That was progress. Alright, so back to the matter at hand. He flipped his notebook back open. What'd you decide to do about all these juvenile delinquents? I set up a tiny little web camera in order to protect my property. Web camera. Camera is designed to send video information to a computer via the internet. Look carefully and you can often spot them outside private residences and even on public streets, where they're installed for use in surveillance. Given the risks of transmitted data being intercepted, the images recorded by such cameras are generally encrypted to prevent playback by unauthorized third parties. Many landmarks and attractions make their camera footage publicly available online. I see. And I'm guessing the webcam did the trick? Sure did. And so then other local businesses heard about it, started asking me to install some for them. Web cameras aren't particularly expensive, so it wasn't too tough to set them up all over downtown. So who's in charge of these security cameras? Members of the downtown business community take turns. The cameras are connected via a wireless network that business owners can access throughout the area. Wireless network, a LAN or local area network. A communication system that can only be accessed within a limited geographic area. A wireless LAN transmits using electronic signals. Although convenient because it does not require cable attachments, there is a risk of signals conveyed in this way being intercepted by a third party. How's your security for this wireless network? Oh, no problems on that front. Endo seems surprised at the question. All of the footage sent over the network is fully encrypted. Encryption. It is the process of encoding data so that it is indecipherable by a third party. Restoring encrypted data to its initial form requires what is called a key, a program designed for this purpose. There are two main types of such cryptographic systems. Secret key crypto systems use the same key for both encryption and decryption. Public key crypto systems use a public key to encrypt the data but require a private key known by the recipient in order to decrypt it. But still, people can't feel too good about being recorded on camera without their knowledge, don't you think? Minorikawa asked. The shopkeeper's expression darkened. We hope to strike a balance between crime prevention and protecting individual privacy. Uh-huh. And who determines what that balance is? Minorikawa let a note of challenge slip into his voice. That would be me. I've been entrusted with the management of the security cameras. I see. So essentially, you're providing your own moral oversight. Are you implying that I'm abusing my authority? Endo shot back. I'm doing this in the name of public order. Right. You've had your 5 minutes. Now get out of here. The shopkeeper stood up and headed into the back. I'll be sure to let the Wandering Angels know about the dry ice machine. Wandering Angels, Episode 2. When Akiomi Mondo didn't show up at the theater at the meetup time, production assistant Yukio Tozuka went to call on him at his apartment. Upon arriving, Tozuka found that the place had been staked out by debt collectors. Mondo had borrowed 300,000 yen, and they wouldn't leave his home until he paid up. It looked like the only way to save Mondo was to give the debt collectors the operating funds for the theater. But before Tozuka could head back to relay the news, the props master, Shinichi Bando, showed up. Continued in Episode 3. I'm wondering if this is like a cut storyline from the game. Endo didn't reply. Minorikawa had gotten enough of a story to put an article together, so he decided to hurry to a coffee shop and get started on some coffee. He was making his way down along Dogenzaka when his cell phone rang. The incoming call display showed Chiaki's name. Chiaki, what's going on? Oh, it's no use. She sounded like she was on the verge of tears. What's no use? I can't do this. I just can't talk to people passing by on the street. What? Why not? It's just that everyone seems so busy when they're walking past. If I try to interrupt them, they're going to be all mad at me. Well, who the hell cares if they get mad? Minorikawa was ready to start ripping his hair out. I don't want them to be mad at me, she whimpered again. Well, this wasn't about what she wanted, was it? She was supposed to be working, not whining. Look, Chiaki, you need to get me those interviews, period. Do I make myself clear? He hung up before she could squeeze in an objection. Damn it, Norikawa muttered. Just what I needed. One more thing to worry about. He pulled at his hair a few times and cast a worried gaze in the direction of Shibuya Station. To be continued. So, okay, we're at the end of his storyline this time around. So we appear to have made all the right choices, because your choices can't bleed into someone else's. So we have Achi's to keep out, and then we have our new guy, Osawa. Let's finish up Achi. Let's go ahead and do that. Then we'll try Osawa. Let's do it. Jump. Back to Achi. He told me, look, there it was. The blue van. A blue van that appeared nearby, parked in a spot that had been empty previously. Achi couldn't see who was inside, but there was definitely something fishy about it. Besides, there weren't any other blue cars around, so this had to be it. He'd been right. The crooks had come back after all. I'm gonna go take a quick look, Achi said. You wait here. But before he could carry out his plan, he told me to jump to her feet. Without a word, she rushed toward the van. Hold on! I said wait! She wasn't slowing down. Achi caught hold of her arm. Wait! This could be dangerous. What if the kidnapper's in there? And what if my sister's in there? I have to go help her! Achi knew full well what it was like to be impulsive, but this is one situation where cooler heads would have to prevail. We can't just hang out here, she insisted. What if the car takes off again? That's why I said I was going to go take a look first. But isn't that dangerous? What if they do something to my sister because some random guy comes snooping around? Oh, huh. Yeah, you got a point. Achi thought as fast as he could. The criminal told Itomi to get into the van. There had to be some specific reason for that. What if they were planning to abduct her as well? Whatever the case, he couldn't just let her go. He had to make a snap decision. Let's go together. Okay, let's go together then. Does that work for you? Please. You have no idea who or what you might run into. Itomi gave a slight nod. Alright, she said. But let me go first and you follow, okay? Got it, Achi replied. Achi waited as Itomi started walking. Then he followed her at a distance, so it wouldn't look like they were together. She headed straight for the van. Two men got out of the car, neither of them Japanese. Achi picked up his pace in case he needed to close the distance fast. One of the men approached Itomi and said something to her. She gave an affirming nod. Suddenly, the two men grabbed her from either side. They dragged her to the van and shoved her into the back seat. Achi broke into a sprint. Of course, it was a trap. He couldn't guess what their whole plan was, but kidnapping Itomi was obviously part of it. But before he could reach the vehicle, the door slid shut. The van sped off an instant later. Achi raced after it. He ran as hard as he could, thinking of nothing else. He couldn't give up now. Couldn't let things end like this. He'd made a promise. No quitting halfway. And no turning his back on someone in trouble. But the car kept getting further and further away. Before long, it was just a blue speck that vanished into the cityscape. No! Is this a bad end? Achi never saw Itomi again. Yep, it's a bad end. Okay. Bad end. Alright. Wow. That wasn't the right choice then, obviously. Alright, here we go. Alright, let me go first. I don't want to put you at any risk. Look, just let me go first. I don't want to put you at any risk. Hitomi's determination wavered at the look in Achi's eyes. Please, he continued, we have no idea who or what we might run into. If I think they're going to try to run off again, I'll give some signal. Then you can come along, and I doubt they'll be interested in leaving again. Hitomi gave a reluctant nod. Please be careful. Will do. And tell me if my sister's in there. I will. You can count on it. Achi steps out into the open and started walking toward the van. He tried his best to look as if he wasn't paying any attention. Yep, I'm just an ordinary passerby. As he got nearer, he tried to sneak a glimpse inside. The van's dark window film made it hard to see who might be inside or even how many people. Casually, he moved closer still to get a better look. Suddenly, the sliding door burst open and several people jumped out. None of them were Japanese. Within moments, Achi was surrounded. Whoa, what? Hey, what's the deal? Achi said. He let out a little chuckle. Man, that thing must be packed. How many seats you got in there, anyway? He took another step toward the vehicle and looked inside. One of the men pulled a knife from inside his jacket, thrusting it out in Achi's direction. He probably meant it as a simple threat, but on reflex, Achi went into self-defense mode, kicking him right in the jaw. There was a loud crack as his foot connected. The man dropped out like a light. The other stared, then rushed him. Well, this sure hadn't gone as planned. Too late to back it out now. The damage was done. Achi was just going to have to take out the rest of these punks, too. He nimbly shifted his feet, evading their initial attack. Having to take these guys on 3-1 was going to be pretty. Achi! He heard Hitomi cry out. Crap. He hadn't given any signal that she had come out of hiding anyway. Hitomi, stay back! How was he supposed to fight off 3 guys and protect her at the same time? What could he do? What should he do? In moments, a number of passers-by had gathered around the fight. Maybe they'd heard Hitomi shouting. Hey, what's going on? Oh my god, is that a knife? It ain't just some petty squabble. Someone called the police. Some of them began taking photos with their cell phones. One of the men cursed in frustration, then signaled for his buddies to get back into the car. Achi couldn't stop them. The engine roared to life and the van sped away. Knowing he'd never catch them on foot, Achi merely watched it go. He'd failed. This was his fault, all of it. Achi bit his lip hard. How could he possibly face Hitomi now? Achi? Hitomi's voice was hollow and empty. Achi stood down at his feet like a scolded child. I'm sorry. I didn't see whether your sister was in there or not. I see. The words, so simple and matter-of-fact, stung him to the heart. I'm so sorry. But Hitomi simply shook her head. The fact that she wasn't even chewing him out made him feel all the worse. I know I messed up, but He was going to say, I'll make up for it, somehow, but he froze with fear at what he saw next. Across the street, staring at them, was the man with the cane. Hitomi, it's him! He had to get out of here. He grabbed Hitomi by the hand and bolted down Dogenzaka. The assassin followed, staying on his side of the road. Achi wasn't sure what to do. Should they try heading into the alleys and side streets again? No, it was more dangerous to head someplace where there'd be fewer witnesses. Let's just stick to Dogenzaka for now. The men wouldn't be able to gun them down if they managed to lose themselves in the crowd along the center of the guy first. Besides, the guy had to use a cane. Achi and Hitomi could outrun it. Hand in hand, they sped along Dogenzaka through the intersection in front of the 109 building. Come on, Hitomi, just a little further. Okay. She was panting, but she pressed on. Achi rested a glance back over his shoulder. Huh? He stopped in surprise. What's wrong? Hitomi asked. That guy, he's not following us. The slope leading down the intersection wasn't all that steep. Several plainclothes detectives have been hiding amidst the crowd in the intersection as part of a kidnapping sting. Right now, Detective Kuze is sending a message to all officers over the wireless, so the detectives have stopped to listen in. It's a bit unusual. An observant individual might notice. Yeah, I see Kano in the background there. It was strange that the gunman hadn't bothered to pursue. Still, there was no time to worry about his behavior right now. Hitomi, can you still run? Yes, I'm alright. And this is our chance. This way. They needed to put plenty of distance behind them before the assassin came after them again. He also needed to find the van again. rescue Tomi's sister. Were they able to find it and yet stay hidden from the man with the cane? Hachi wasn't sure one way or the other, but with Hitomi in tow, he hurried onward along the center guide. To be continued. Alright. We've got everybody to be continued now except for Mr. Osawa. So let's go ahead and get him started, shall we? Wealth, status, honor. None of these things mean anything to me. All I want is a peaceful life. To put worry behind me. To stay calm and serene. To be free of worldly concerns. Free at any cost. Haven't we heard this before? This song? A cheery rhythm pumped from the CD player set up against the study wall. It was latest hit from Aya Kamiki, the songwriter sensation who's blowing up the pop charts. Kenji Osawa reached for the stereo remote on his desktop. He ratcheted the volume a little louder. He looked like the sort of man who'd be more interested in classical music, but in fact he was a huge fan of the girl rock popular with middle schoolers. Closing his eyes, he swayed back and forth in time with the music, humming his favorite lyrics under his breath, but his movements faltered. It's no use. Aya's voice usually soothed whatever ailed him, but today she couldn't help. Today, Osawa was a complete wreck in both body and mind. Mounds of paperwork were scattered across the desktop in his study, all of it about viruses and vaccines. It had only been a week since he'd returned from a business trip to his company's branch office in the U.S., and he was slated to go back in another week's time. There was a truly staggering amount of work he needed to get through while he was at home. He picked up one of the papers, glanced at it aimlessly, and tossed it back onto the desk. Slumping back in his chair, he let out a long, deep sigh. He was in no mental state to work right now. A faint knock at the door barely roused him from his torpor. "Director, may I come in?" It was his vice director, Mamoru Tanaka. "Sure, the door's open." Tanaka came into the study. "I know it's not a great time, but..." Osawa could barely make out his words. He tapped the remote, lowering the volume of the music. Tanaka continued apologetically. "A call came in from the lab. They're hoping for a response to the email they sent yesterday." "I'm sure they don't need it today." "Apparently they need an answer as soon as possible, sir. I did ask them to give you some more time, but..." "I see," Osawa said wearily. "All right, then." Tanaka dipped his head slightly and slipped out of the room. Osawa contemplated his colleague. Tanaka was a man he could truly depend on. He has enough of his own work to do. He didn't need to come here again today, but he did. They'd been working in close concert ever since Osawa had gotten back to Japan. Without Tanaka's support, there was no way he would be in a mindset to do any work at all right now. Sidling up to his computer, Osawa opened his email program and started answering the work-related messages. He reported on his business travel expenses, offered his opinions on capital investments, requested confirmation on current medicinal stockpiles. He worked with bleak detachment. None of this meant anything to him right now. Then a new email appeared in his inbox. The sender was simply identified as A. The subject line read, "1 year ago, South Africa." The message body was blank, but there appeared to be multiple images attached. Ordinarily, Osawa would have deleted a message like this assuming some kind of virus, but the word South Africa drew his attention. Could this possibly be related to... He couldn't help but wonder. For a long moment he hovered the cursor over one of the image files. At last, as if spurred on by the upbeat rhythm in his ears, he double-clicked the mouse. What is this? The grainy photograph showed a large room with a dozen or so people laid out in beds. It appeared to be some sort of medical ward. Osawa felt a strange flutter in his chest. He quickly opened another image. This one showed a close-up of one of the patients in his bed. Large red blotches covered his face. A large volume of red blood appeared to be dripping from his ears and nostrils. A cold shudder ran up Osawa's spine. What the hell? These symptoms. Osawa opened up the remaining image files. Each new picture showed another of the patients. They all appeared to be teetering on the brink of death. There was no doubt about it. These people were infected with the UA virus. The UA virus. The UA, or UA? The UA, maybe? The UA virus belongs to family Filoviridae, genus Ualicae virus. It is a member of the same family as the Ebola virus and causes UA virus fulminant hemorrhagic fever. It is capable of airborne transmission, although an infected individual cannot pass on the infection before symptoms manifest. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, have assigned the virus to Risk Group 4, their classification for the most dangerous infectious agents. But how? Questions tumbled through Osawa's mind. His fingers tapped out a quick message. He doubted he'd get a response, but he might as well try. Who are you? Where are these images from? The UA virus is roughly 90 nm to 110 nm in diameter and 500 nm to 700 nm long. Because of its pronounced sickle-like shape, it is sometimes known as the sickle of death. It possesses a virus envelope, the surface of which is coated with spike-shaped protein protuberances. Oh, a nanometer. 1/1000th of a meter. Gotcha. Got its name from the Swahili word for flower. Supposedly, this was based on the fact that the propagated form of the virus resembles the petals of a flower. Despite the flowery name, however, the disease was anything but pretty. UA didn't just mean, or UA just didn't mean flower, it also meant to kill. As the name suggested, the virus had a mortality rate of 100% in those it managed to infect. Because most deaths regarding the UA virus have been suppressed, cases of UA infection are largely unknown to the world at large. Because all patients known to be infected with the virus on official records have died within a short time frame, the mortality rate is given as 100%. As the incidence of known cases grows, the number may drop below 100%, but the mortality rate will likely remain extraordinarily high. Moreover, there was a very short incubation period between infection, the onset of symptoms, and death. Inhaled viral particles can spread from the lungs to the lymph nodes, and from there disperse throughout the body. Oop, did it again. Hang on, there we go. The virus propagates in several places, including liver cells and macrophages, a component of the immune system. It destroys the endothelial cells within blood vessels. Upon reaching the brain, it forms a neural sludge of blood mixed with other bodily fluids. Within roughly 12 hours, bleeding would set in throughout the body, everywhere but the bones and muscles, with lethal results. Due to its incredibly high mortality rate, the disease's very existence had been kept hidden from public knowledge. Osawa's computer chimed to signify the arrival of a new email. The sender was A. He hurried to open the message. Once again, the subject line read, 1 year ago, South Africa. Your crimes. Osawa stared at those two words. My crimes? It left him only with further questions. He looked again at the images from the previous email. What makes any of this my crimes? He could see that the patient's bleeding was severe. He estimated that several hours had passed since the onset of the disease. It wouldn't be long before their lives were cut short. To feel that agony, that suffering, and then to perish. Am I to blame for that? Another faint knock came at the door. Darling, do you have a moment? It was his wife, I. We'll close the program before we do that. But first, I will be right back. Alright, I am back. But yeah, we're going to close the email program first. Give me just a second. Osawa hurriedly closed the mail program. Even if this was nothing more than some sick prank, it wasn't anything he wanted his family to see. Especially not I. Alright, come in. But Osawa turned to see that I had already let herself into the study. The sharp sting of her perfume made him scrunch up his face for a moment. She does not look happy. At all. Have you reconsidered the whole America thing? She asked. This again, Osawa thought sullenly to himself. Please, he said, can we not discuss this right now? If not now, then when? You know this isn't a decision to just make on your own. On his latest business trip, a major American pharmaceutical firm had attempted to headhunt him, asking him to join and be among the top researchers in the world. Umbrella Inc. The money and prestige held no interest for him, and he was reluctant to turn his back on Okoshi Pharmaceutical after his many years of service. Okoshi Pharmaceutical, the pharmaceutical company for which Kenji Osawa works. It's a major corporation with a solid sales network, both domestically and internationally, and an annual turnover of 1 trillion yen. It holds patients for several medications that are patents, not patients, that are in demand worldwide, and is influential at the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, and other political institutions. The company employs roughly 7,000 people, including 600 researchers. Nonetheless, he was intrigued by the offer. It would mean the chance to conduct his virus research in a much better funded environment. Taking the job would necessitate relocating to the U.S., however. When he'd mentioned the possibility of emigrating to Ai, she'd shot the idea down on the spot. Her opposition was understandable. Ai's father, Suguro Makino, was a member of Okoshi Pharmaceutical's board of directors. No way he was going to let Osawa jump ship to another company. Darling, please. I drew in closer to him. Think about it from my perspective. She still looks really mad. If you leave for America, what am I supposed to tell my father? He'd gotten so used to it, that grating whine of hers. Have you considered what might happen to Okoshi if you leave, dear? We can discuss that once all this is finished. Osawa kept his voice as level as he could. You do remember that you're a director, right? I said. You have responsibilities. Stop thinking about yourself so much. With a sour look, I turned and departed. Well, he had known that moving to America would never be a simple matter, regardless of what his wife thought about it. There was another reason, however. The antiviral agent he developed at Okoshi. The antiviral agent, a therapeutic drug used to treat viral infections. Examples include the drugs used against influenza and HIV. These treatments do not eliminate the infection, rather they simply inhibit the development of the disease. There are still many issues with such drugs, including the risk that treated viruses possess or develop a resistance that makes the treatment ineffective. Academic institutions and pharmaceutical companies worldwide devote tremendous resources to further advancing the field of antiviral medicine. After the Ua virus was discovered in infectious disease researches, the facilities had thrown themselves into a top-secret effort to develop a vaccine. Vaccines function by safely introducing a harmless or attenuated version of a virus or other pathogen into the human body. This triggers the body to produce antibodies against the pathogen, making it difficult for the dangerous version to take hold. But Makino had ordered Osawa to work on creating an antiviral agent, not a vaccine. A vaccine immunized the subject in order to prevent infection in the first place. Conversely, an iron antiviral agent could be used to treat patients already infected. It was a so-called wonder drug for combating the virus itself. Creating such a drug was far easier said than done. Developing the antiviral had been a long, arduous road. Only after years of research had Osawa's team succeeded in identifying a substance that might qualify as an antiviral agent for UUA. In theory, it was administered during the virus's initial stages. 100% recovery could be attained. Data also suggested an 80% survival rate for patients treated shortly after the onset of symptoms. But there was a fatal flaw with the new antiviral agent. The side effects on the body were unusually potent. If it was administered in amounts beyond a certain threshold, it was linked to life-threatening complications. For a time, the research was at an impasse. It seemed the drug had to be administered in high volume to combat the explosive propagation of the Ua virus. But then Osawa had received some fortuitous news. Okoshi Pharmaceuticals' nanotechnology branch had engineered a cutting-edge device known as the DDS. Nanotechnology. Technology created and or operated on an extremely small scale, often measured in nanometers. There are 1 billion nanometers in a meter. Some nanotech devices are literally regulated on the atomic level. The possibilities are ever-expanding in practical fields such as medicine and materials science. The United States is among the world leaders in the push for research and development. DDS, acronym for Drug Delivery System. Such a system administers ultramicroscopic drug capsules to a targeted area of the body. Osawa had jumped on it immediately by administering his antiviral agent with the nanotech DDS. Because the DDS can be used to deliver a drug with pinpoint precision and only where it's needed, it can greatly reduce the side effects of even potent drugs. The DDS, developed by Okoshi Pharmaceutical, utilizes advanced high-tech polymers, which ensure that the capsules containing the drug are fully broken down and eliminated from the body roughly 1 week after administration. There we go, this is a little video. Isn't that cool? The procedure was a huge success. There was a marked increase in the drug's efficacy, along with the expected decrease in adverse side effects. Adverse side effects. A pharmaceutical is said to have a positive effect if its use brings about the desired results when treating a medical condition. But many drugs create unwanted or unforeseen adverse effects as well. Given the extreme complexity of most drugs' interactions with the human body, nearly any medicine can have both positive and negative side effects. The effects have been confirmed by animal testing on monkeys, and now the antiviral is ready on the final development stages. Clinical trials on humans. Animal testing. Experiments involving drugs or medical techniques tested on animals to confirm their safety before they are used on humans. The 1964 Declaration of Helsinki, which lays out ethical standards for human experimentation, advocates responsible animal testing, but many animal rights advocates regard such testing as a form of animal cruelty. Clinical trials. When a new drug is being prepared for government approval, after it's been tested on animals, it must pass tests on humans, clinical trials, that evaluate its safety and suitability. Such tests are frequently conducted on both patients and healthy individuals. In Japan, the development of new drugs is often hindered by insufficient legal infrastructure for conducting clinical trials, resulting in a smaller knowledge base and fewer opportunities for testing. The very existence of this new wonder drug was still a secret. No doubt Okoshi's leadership would be reluctant to see Osawa, the drug's lead researcher, transferred to another company. Still, it wasn't completely outside the realm of possibility. Once the antiviral was out of development and announced to the public, Osawa would be free and clear. For that very reason, he was loath to cause any friction over the drug right now. The anxiety only magnified his concern about the email he just received. Osawa called up Tanaka over the intercom. There's something I want to show you. Could you come in here? He needed a second opinion, and Tanaka could be relied upon. Osawa opened the door the moment Tanaka knocked. He looked around before ushering his vice director inside. What's this about, sir? This. Osawa showed him one of the images. Tanaka's face went pale. Can't be. Tanaka clearly recognized the symptoms of the Ua virus. Any idea what this is about? Osawa asked. No, sir. These images were just emailed to me. The subject line says 1 year ago, South Africa. That would put it around the same time as the most recent turn of infections, wouldn't it, sir? That information isn't. Tanaka trailed off, and Osawa nodded. The thing I don't understand is why these pictures were sent to me. Osawa opened the other email from A. The second message I got said that these pictures are my crimes. I'll look into this on my end, sir, Tanaka said. He hesitated uncomfortably. Sir, just to make sure, Are you asking about what I think you're asking about? Osawa said. Tanaka gave a slight nod. Understood, Osawa said. Don't worry. I won't trouble you. I appreciate that, sir. Visibly relieved, Tanaka left the study. Osawa brought up a folder marked UA virus on his screen. Within the folder were enlarged images of the virus itself. He double-clicked one of the images. It blew up on the monitor, which revealed the pathogen in intricate detail. A specimen of the UA virus was approximately 100 nanometers in diameter. 10,000 of them in line would take up barely a millimeter, but a single tiny variant, when entering the human body, could become 2,000 in an hour. That speed of multiplication was nothing short of astonishing. Even the Ebola virus had a typical incubation period of 7 days or so before infectees developed symptoms. Ebola virus. A virus of the family Filoviridae that causes Ebola hemorrhagic fever. Currently 5 characterized species are known. Thai Forest, Sudan, Reston, Zaire, and Bundibugyo. Ebola is widely known for its high mortality rate, 53% for the Sudan form, 88% for the Zaire. But the Reston variant, discovered in monkeys that have been brought to the U.S., has displayed no pathogenicity in humans. Flu influenza was 1 or 2. But the onset of the UA virus happened in a mere 12 hours. Osawa viewed an image slideshow of the virus's propagation mechanism. It was a fascinating sight, no matter how many times he looked at it. Viruses existed to multiply, nothing more. They had no motives, no driving logic, nothing but simple multiplication. To Osawa, that fact held a certain air of mystery. If viruses had emotions, how would they feel about their lives? He had thrown himself into virus research in search of answers to questions like that, answers that no man could truly know. His development of the antiviral agent had really been nothing more than another job responsibility. He felt no particular sense of duty to protect people from a killer virus. He was just happy for the chance to play around with UA day after day. Another email arrived in his inbox. The sender, A. The subject line, 1 year ago, South Africa. Again. Osawa read the message. Do not look away. These are your crimes. This time there were 4 images attached. Osawa proceeded to open each of them in turn. The first shocked Osawa so much that he felt like he'd been punched in the head. One of the UA patients from the earlier images was being injected with something. No. Osawa muttered to himself. It can't be. The second image showed one of the infected hunched over in pain, vomiting up blood. The symptoms had already manifested, but Osawa thought he could see that some degree of life had come back into the patient's eyes. He rushed open the third image. It showed a morgue piled high with corpses. The rictus of anguish on the dead faces made them look no longer human. Various fluids seeped from the eyes and nostrils. The lymph nodes were grotesquely swollen. Lymph nodes, small organs that function as part of the lymphatic system in mammals. When a foreign substance invades the body, the lymph nodes detect it, promoting the production of white blood cells such as lymphocytes and macrophages to consume the invader. A viral infection sometimes causes the lymph nodes to swell up as a result of increased activity. There were hospital beds stained with massive amounts of blood and gastric fluids. Next came the fourth and final image. More corpses. They had badges affixed to their chests with various labels. 6 hours passed, 12 hours passed, and 18 hours passed. It looked as if someone had been attempting live trials with the antiviral agents. Osawa didn't consider the antiviral agent ready for release, but that was because his team hadn't conducted clinical trials on humans yet. And there was a good reason why such trials hadn't been conducted. There was no way to test the efficacy of the drug without an infected patient. To run a proper clinical test, someone would first need to be infected with the UA virus. No matter how effective animal testing had been, if the drug proved ineffective on humans, that person would have a guaranteed death sentence. It was unthinkable to run trials that involved such a deadly risk. And yet, as he looked over the images again and again, Osawa became certain, without his knowledge, someone, presumably someone from Makoshi Pharmaceutical, had conducted human testing with the antiviral agent. The time markers on the corpses in the fourth image were surely there to mark the time elapsed since the onset of symptoms, a thorough trial to test the drug's effectiveness in those time frames. Osawa slammed his fist on the desk and raged. This was nothing short of vile human experimentation in the guise of clinical testing. The people responsible could not be allowed to get away with this. There was only one person Osawa could trust to keep this under wraps. His boss, Makino. Remember when this was a goofy crime thriller? This is like Resident Evil dark story stuff now. But you kind of get this with games like this. You know, the tone can really jump all over the place, which is fine. It's fine. That's what you expect going into these kind of things. But he stopped short as soon as he picked up the receiver. He knew he was in no state of mind to have a calm, reasoned conversation right now. Turning to the CD player, he put on Aya Kamiki's latest album. Leaning back in his chair, he surrendered himself to her soothing tones. Bit by bit, he could feel himself returning to a calmer emotional state. There had been a time when Osawa hadn't listened to music at all. In fact, he had no interest in the arts in general, music, painting, cinema. It was only due to a simple coincidence that he had found Aya Kamiki. His daughter had asked for a CD as a birthday present. Oops, wrong button. So he'd swung by the store to pick one up. Since Kamiki's new album had just come out, there was a display for it in the front of the shop. Something about the bright, colorful album packaging had drawn him in. After a time, Osawa could feel himself growing calmer. He took a nice, deep breath. Let's dial up Makino. He took a nice, deep breath, and then he dialed up Makino. Has there been any progress? Makino asked as soon as he picked up. His voice was somber. No, Osawa said. Nothing much yet. A tiny sigh came in from the other end of the line. I see. And what can I do for you? Sir, I'll just get right to the point. Have you conducted clinical trials using the antiviral drug? Makino didn't respond right away. What makes you think that? He asked at last. Osawa described the emails he'd received. When he'd finally finished, Makino let out his breath in surprise. Not over the phone, he said. We'll discuss this in person. I'll head over to your place when I'm done here. As soon as possible, sir. As soon as I can manage, Makino said. You're not the only person who's busy. With that, Makino hung up. There was no doubt about it, then. There had to have been human testing. Osawa went to let Tanaka know he'd be meeting with Makino. Mr. Osawa, are you going somewhere? A stolid-looking man stood in the hallway, almost as if he'd been waiting for Osawa to emerge. It was Yoshio Kajiwara, one of the detectives from the Shibuya precinct. A detective with the Shibuya Precinct's Criminal Investigation Division. He is sociable but awkward, and despite his reserved personality, he can be quite unsettling. His colleagues as the precinct refer to him by nicknames such as Japanese Columbo and Little Ken Takakura, given his own quirky demeanor as a detective. He struck Osawa as a bit too soft-spoken and meek for a detective, really, and his treatment of the kidnapping case gave an impression of flighty detachment that made him seem rather undependable. No, not really. Have there been any developments, detective? Kajiwara shook his head quietly. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not really sure what to tell you. Kajiwara then slipped a hand into his suit pocket. He pulled out a banana. What is up? The bananas are everywhere in this game. A highly nutritious fruit belonging to family Musaceae, genus Musa. Because they contain a variety of different carbohydrates, bananas can provide long-lasting energy and are an optimal energy source when exercising. The famous slipperiness of banana peels is due to the oils in the inner part of their skin. But even if all of the oils were removed, slapstick comedians would still probably slip on them anyway. Are you hungry? These are good for when you're tired. I'm fine, thanks, Osawa said. Kajiwara seemed to lack a detective's sense of situational awareness. Just being around him got on Osawa's nerves. Well, sir, I need you to come with me, the detective says, if you don't mind. He took Osawa by the arm. As Kajiwara hurried him toward the living room, Osawa could hear other detectives talking on the other side of the door. He's working at a time like this? Seriously? Sheesh, I do not get rich people and their priorities. Yeah, I feel bad for his daughter. Her dad's a real piece of work. Nice. They were bad-mouthing him in his own house. Oh, so this is the dad of... Okay. Oh, I'm really sorry about all that, Kajiwara said, pausing in embarrassment. Osawa pushed past him and opened the door. What is this? A number of police detectives huddled up in the living room. They went suddenly silent as Osawa entered. So tell me, he said sarcastically, would you rather stay here weeping as I watch this disaster unfold? The detectives winced and grimaced. Forgive me for not being a perfect father, he added, his hostility building. Kajiwara stepped forward to intervene before things got out of hand. Now, let's not be touchy. I am not being touchy, Osawa snapped. But he knew full well that he was. These guys had the time to sit around backbiting him, but not to go out and bring Maria to safety. Already close to half a day had gone by without any new developments. The ransom demand had come in the previous night at 8 o'clock. Maria had been abducted roughly an hour before. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., by Hachiko in Shibuya. Have the sister Hitomi bring 50 million yen. If not, the girl's life is forfeit. The kidnapper called only once, so the police were unable to run a trace. I'll do it, Hitomi said. Anything for my sister. She didn't hesitate in the slightest at the suggestion that she make the ransom handoff. Osamu was staunchly opposed to the idea, but the police were of the opinion that it was better to acquiesce to the kidnapper's demands. Ai's reaction, on the other hand, baffled nearly everyone. We don't have 50 million just lying around. Are the police going to be putting that together for us? Kajiwara stepped in to reassure her. If it comes down to it, this will be able to help raise the money. Okay, go ahead then, do it. We'd need you to pay it back afterwards, though, of course. Well, then what's the point of that? Ai's voice spiked up to a piercing shriek. Calm down, Osawa told her. You're making a scene. I turned away in a huff. It's all right, detective, Osawa continued. I'll talk to the bank first thing tomorrow morning and figure something out. At that, I stormed out of the room. Kajiwara bowed his head several times in apology. As soon as Hitomi has made contact, we'll apprehend the suspect and take things from there. What? Hold on, won't that put Maria in danger? If we let the kidnapper get away with the money, we have no proof that he will return the hostage safely afterwards. There was a certain logic there, Osawa had to concede. I see, he said. So you're saying that catching this guy will be easier for you if he keeps my daughter hostage? No, that's not what I was implying at all. Kajiwara wiped the sweat off his brow and bowed profusely. At least, I promise we'll get your daughter back safe and sound, Mr. Osawa. Obviously, there was nothing to be gained from further challenging the detectives. Alright, then. I'll let the police do their job. Osawa bowed even lower than Kajiwara had. How long are you going to just loaf around? I shrieked as she stormed into the room. Hurry up and arrest this guy. She was becoming increasingly hysterical. An hour had passed since the subject had taken the money, and yet the police had made no effort to apprehend him. The police apparently had a rule against discussing an operation that was fully resolved, and so the Osawas had been left in the dark. But they had overheard the task force talking over the wireless, and it appeared that they were deliberately letting the suspect roam free. Hey! I snapped again. If he gets away with our money, you are going to reimburse us, right? Osawa scowled. She made it sound like the money was more important than Maria's life. The detectives exchanged uneasy glances. Osawa chided his wife. It's only money, it doesn't matter. It's only money, it doesn't matter. Only money? Are you serious? Do you have any idea how much we're talking about here? The ferocity in her voice left him with no response. He should have known better than to expect her to make sacrifices for her daughters. By now he was accustomed to Ai's coldness toward the two girls. The twins were Osawa's daughters from his first wife, who'd passed away 15 years earlier. Ah, okay. I had no blood ties to Maria or Hitomi yourself. Well, I continued, are the police going to reimburse us or not? She glared pointedly at Kajiwara. Well, right now we're focused on making sure Maria is safe. I stormed up to him, shouting right in his face. Stop dodging the question. Answer me. Yes, of course, Kajiwara screamed. Maybe you'd like something to eat to help you calm down? He held out a banana. I smacked it out of his hand. Oh dear, what a waste. Kajiwara scrabbled to retrieve the fruit from the floor. Osawa went over to Tanaka and whispered into his ear. I'm going to meet with Mr. Makino. Tanaka nodded silently. Turning, Osawa saw Kajiwara looking in their direction. They made eye contact, but Osawa quickly looked away and strode out of the living room. Kajiwara followed after him. Excuse me, Mr. Osawa? Yes, what is it? The detective fussed sheepishly with his hair and forced a smile. Sir, we'd appreciate it if you could remain in the living room as much as possible. Osawa was in no mood to stand on propriety. Look, I've got a ton of work to do, he said. Are you here to tell me to play the role of the grieving father, too? No, not at all. Personally, I happen to think you're an admirable father, Mr. Osawa. Admirable? Did the word have a ring of sarcasm? He had no way to tell if Kajiwara was being forthright with him or not. You're no ordinary fellow, Mr. Osawa. You're a genius. A genius? Me? Osawa made a skeptical noise. Am I mistaken, sir? You've made very important strides in the field of virus research. Oh well, so I've been told. Osawa wasn't sure how to respond. He had never considered himself a genius. He was just someone who was more interested in viruses than he was in other people. Everyone who's a genius is also a little bit odd, after all, Kajiwara went on. Probably he'd intended that as a compliment, but still. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with weirdos, as long as they leave us ordinary folks alone, you know? Is this guy trying to praise me or insult me? Osawa let out a heavy sigh. Genius, weirdo, what did it even matter? So long as he could be left to his work, he didn't care one whit how he looked in other people's eyes. Kajiwara wiped the sweat off his forehead with a handkerchief. By the way, what are you working on right now? He asked. I'm afraid you wouldn't understand even if I explained it to you, Osawa replied. Right, precisely. Even if I gave it my full attention, it would still be beyond me. He peered with sudden intensity into Osawa's face. I'd appreciate it if you didn't hide things from me, sir, he said. Osawa gaped, at a loss for words. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kajiwara added hurriedly. Goodness, that made it sound like I'm accusing you of hiding something, doesn't it? The detective bowed his head repeatedly. I hope you'll forgive me. He held out a banana. That won't be necessary. How about this thing? This time he pulled a bar of chocolate from his pocket. No, thank you. This guy just carried an endless food supply wherever he went? Oh my, Kajiwara murmured. You geniuses really are tough to sort out. He inclined his head, mumbling to himself for a moment. What can I get for you then, sir? What I'd really like is some time by myself. In the days of exasperation, Osawa felt his way to his study. Locking the door, he finally let out the breath he'd been holding. Then his eyes alighted on the bookshelf against the wall. He pulled out a photo album and began to flip through it. There were pictures of his daughter's grade school enrollment ceremony. Their mother had already passed away from illness, so Osawa had taken the girls himself. He remembered that after the ceremony, Hitomi had come down with a fever. Hitomi had been rather sickly as a girl, falling bedridden at the drop of a hat. Maria, by contrast, had been lively and energetic, quite the handful. Osawa had found it remarkable that their personalities could be so different despite them being twins. He flipped further into the album. It was a picture of the three of them at their grade school graduation. Maria was looking away from the camera. Osawa felt like someone had stabbed a dagger in his heart. His daughters or virology? Which truly concerned him more? Which did he truly love? It was ridiculous to try to compare the two. He'd known the answer before he even asked himself. Even so, human emotions were complicated and sometimes made people act inconsistently. One of the consequences of that was this photo album. This was the last photo he had of Maria. He searched and searched for the rest of the album, but she was nowhere else to be found. That's odd, isn't it? To be continued. Alright, we're done with 11 to noon, I think. Tune to 1. Alright. Alright, who should we jump into this time? Well, traditionally we're leading off with Kano, so let's lead off with Kano. That's what I say. Kano had been watching Syndicate members hand off the attaché case for an hour and a half. He still had no idea where this relay might be headed. The man he was tailing now was about 10 meters away. Close enough that Kano could close the distance and apprehend him at a moment's notice, but his orders remained the same. Follow and observe. He watched as the case was handed off once more. By now the shock of seeing it pass to yet another accomplice had worn off. It's already been 90 minutes, huh? It was Sasayama. At some point he crept up from Kano from behind. They don't seem like they're trying to get away at all. Kano said they're just walking. What could they be up to? Sasayama shrugged. Yeah, it's weird. Kano recalled dictum number 89. Dictum number 89. The more irrelevant something seems, the more relevant it's bound to be. If Tatano's wisdom held true, the Syndicate must have some reason for what it was doing. Were they just trying to throw the investigators off their scent? No, that couldn't be it. They were wandering in circles, staying right in the same area. They were just running up the clock. What if that's exactly what they were after? Buying time. Kano felt a sudden conviction that he was on the right track. They needed more time to make sure they got their hands on the ransom payment. Wait, hold on. Could it be that the real case had already been switched out, or the ransom money wasn't even in the case anymore? Good question. Let's think about this. So they're doing a lot of time walking around, wasting time, handing the case off. I mean, the more likely possibility is that it's not the real case anymore. Because he's kind of had a pretty decent eye on it most of the time, but there was that time, the first handoff, that he didn't see it correctly. So, could be one or the other. We're going to go with the top one. That one seems more likely. Could it be that the real case had already been switched out? It made a certain amount of sense. By handing the case off to one accomplice after another, they were leading the detectives to pay more attention to the individuals than the case itself. That could enable them to swap the case while the focus was elsewhere. Kano shared his hunch with Sasayama. I see. I mean, it is a possibility. They may be following the wrong case. There was palpable tension in the air now. Kano, Sasayama said. The other reported to Kuze. On it. Kano's hand flashed to his wireless. Kuze was dismissive. No, that's the case, I assure you. No offense, sir, but how can you be sure? Kuze sighed. Because that's my job. There's an ID tag in that case that allows us to keep tabs on it. There's no way those crooks could have whipped up a duplicate. ID tag? What ID tag? Wait, no, that's right. Kano had forgotten all about that detail in the wake of his all-nighter. All right. Don't you all-right me. Clearly you weren't hired for your brains. Focus on what you're good at. Kuze ended the call. Still, Kano couldn't shake his conviction that something was off. The man with the attaché case made his way back to Shibuya Station. The heck? Sasayama grumbled. He's right back where we started. Kano felt his frustration growing. It honestly looked like the Syndicate was just randomly lugging the case around town. Near Shibuya Station, a girl approached the suspect. She was Japanese and entirely unlike any other criminal accomplice. She spoke to the man while showing him something on her notepad. He glanced at the pad, but didn't slow down. Within moments, he had left her behind. It looked like she just passed him a message. That's sure fishy, Sasayama muttered. What, the girl? Yes, Kano? Yeah. Wanna go hit her up? Sasayama could only mean one thing, questioning her. Yeah, let's go see what she knows. I have a feeling this isn't going to turn out okay, but whatever. Sasayama and Kano hurried over to the girl. Excuse me, miss, we'd like to ask you if you... Are you happy with your life? The young woman shouted. She thrust her notepad in Kano's face. Tell me this. Are you happy with your life right now? Huh? Looking at the notepad, Kano saw the same bold question written there in big bold. Oh, it's Chiaki. It's Chiaki. The girl's eyes widened in surprise as if she'd actually expected the two men to actually stop and listen. Right now, sir, she continued more clearly, are you happy with... If so, could you please take this survey about, about your life? Are you happy with it? The more she spoke, the more flustered she became. Sasayama stepped in. Hey, I need to know, did you speak with that Western fellow just now? Huh? No, that isn't what I'm asking. Sir, are you happy with your life right now? Are you happy with your life right now? Kano got a sinking feeling in his stomach. This kid was looking for religious converts or something. You did speak with him, didn't you? Sasayama snapped. What'd you tell him? The girl's rambling abruptly ceased. Her already ruddy face went even redder, and tears welled up in her eyes. Poor kid, Kano thought. She's just out here trying to get people to listen to her survey questions. There's no way she's part of this kidnapping plot. Look, miss, he said, for the time being, it would be a good idea for you to leave the area. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to explain. The girl's only response was to start sobbing outright. I can't do this anymore. I want to go home. Kano and Sasayama exchanged awkward glances. I want to go home. I want to go home. Passers-by began shooting curious looks at the trio. Kano, you get back to work, Sasayama said. I'll escort this girl to the train station. He didn't quite manage to stifle the embarrassment in his voice. Right, Kano said. He hurried away, his eyes already searching for the suspect they'd been tailing. It didn't take long to find him. The man's black car made him stand out in the crowd at the intersection. It occurred to Kano that all of the criminals who handled the attaché case had been wearing the same black clothing. That fact made the whole situation even weirder. Could they really be ignorant that they were being followed while they were all wearing the same eye-catching outfit? It was more like they were going out of their way to make sure the investigators spotted them. That still didn't provide any clues as to what they were after, though. The longer Kano kept tailing these guys, the less it all made sense. Was it really such a good idea to keep this up? Someone's life was in danger, and they were just letting the kidnappers carry out their plan, whatever it was. The very first page of the Dick Diary spelled things loud and clear on that one. Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, ever. Right now, the single most important thing was ensuring the hostage's safety. This was a situation where Tatsuno would have stuck to his guns for sure. Kano thought back to that day 3 years ago. A burglar had shut himself inside a financial office and doused the place in gasoline. Kano had just been put on police box duty and was ordered to solve the scene because his box was just down the street from the standoff. Police box duty. Nobody is assigned to a detective post right after graduating from a police academy. Detective positions can be quite hard to come by. Candidates are selected for detective training while after accumulating enough experience working at the local police box, a very small type of neighborhood station manned by only a handful of officers. Several officers had surrounded the building, keeping close tabs on the situation. The suspect was shouting nonsense through the entrance to the first floor. Things were getting heated. A crowd of alarmed onlookers started to form as well. Step aside, the voice said suddenly from amidst the throng. A middle-aged man in a rumpled business suit had approached Kano as he hovered nervously at the edge of the scene. I'm sorry, sir, Kano said. You have to stay back for your own safety. He attempted to usher the man back into the crowd. A no-nonsense look crossed the newcomer's face. He spoke in a low voice. I'm Detective Tatsuno from the Shibuya precinct. What's the situation? Oh, sir, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course. Kano stammered as he quickly explained. He hasn't taken anyone hostage, but there are still people on the upper floors of the building. Giving only a slight nod, Tatsuno marched straight up to the building. They're not letting us see Tatsuno's face. Is he somebody we know? The plastic container of gasoline the suspect uses on the ground out front. Tatsuno picked up and dumped the remaining contents out over his head. Kano was at a loss for words. He couldn't believe what he was saying. I covered myself in gasoline too, Tatno called out from the entryway. The tension in the air ratcheted itself up 6 notches. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Kano heard the burglar shouting from inside. If you're gonna do it, do it, Tatno called out. We can die together. And he walked into the building. All Kano could do was watch things unfold through the plate glass window. Tatno was talking to the burglar, but Kano couldn't make out the words. The crook was clutching a lighter, his hand trembling. His expression was that of a frightened child. Tatno slowly approached him and took firm hold of his shaking hand. The onlookers erupted into cheers and applause. Tatno handled the now docile suspect over to the detectives, then wearily sat down against the planter in the front. It was like something ripped straight out of a police drama. That was amazing, Kano breathed. You have to deal with guys like that as quickly as you can. You let a situation like this get even a little out of hand, and you never know how things might go south on you. Tatno spoke quietly. It was as if he were talking to himself. As the police evacuated the rest of the building, Kano noticed that there were children and elderly people among them. If the perp had managed to set the fire, there was no way they would have escaped in time. But I mean, what if he'd actually set the place on fire? If someone's willing to risk their life, you're not going to convince them of anything unless you do the same. Kano still remembered the awe he felt at Tatno's matter-of-fact tone. Kano hadn't become a police officer out of any real sense of duty. He just thought it would make Rumi happy if he became a detective like her father. Besides, civil servants tended to stay afloat in times of recession, and his time playing rugby meant he was in good physical shape for the job. He'd never really thought too much about protecting the citizenry or keeping the peace, but now here he was in the presence of a detective who would literally risk his life in the line of duty without a second thought. A police officer never loses sight of what he's supposed to protect, ever. Getting back to his feet, Tatno tugged off his gasoline-drenched coat and walked away. Kano wrote the words in a notebook he just purchased. Thus the Dick Diary was born. Oh, he wrote it himself. Okay. Thinking back to the way Tatno had put his life on the line to rescue a bunch of strangers made Kano feel a little more raw about just tailing these syndicate members. Letting the crooks just wander around wasn't going to bring Maria Osawa to safety. Of that, Kano was not certain. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. He uttered the fundamental dictum out loud. Well, you've lost sight of it completely, a voice said out of nowhere. What? Kano spun around. It was Shizuo. Ruma was with him. Sir? Kano stuttered. Weren't you supposed to be waiting at the cafe for? There was some lowlife there, so we left. Oh no, it's gonna be Achi, isn't it? Rumi's dad looked plenty mean under ordinary circumstances. Right now, he looked like a man possessed. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm still on duty at the moment. I'm going back home. Shizuo huffed. You're not marrying my daughter. He turned to walk away. No, please, just wait. I'm done waiting. Now I'm going home. Please, don't do this. Just hear me out. I've heard all I need to hear from you. Rumi, we're leaving. Dad, please. Goodbye. Seizing his daughter by the hand, Shizuo stormed off without another word, dragging her behind. Shinya! She called out over her shoulder. Rumi! She was gone. Rumi was gone. Kano desperately wanted to go after her, but he hesitated in an agony of indecision. I can't turn my back on my responsibilities. I'm a detective. The work has to be my first priority. Going after Rumi isn't what a good detective would do. Oh, Detective Tatno, what should I do? Tatno, Still, the dictum echoed in his mind. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, ever. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. 6 months later. What? 6 months later. Kano made his way through a small corner of a fast field in the Nagano countryside. Slowly and leisurely, he tilled the soil. He had surprised himself with his own newfound enthusiasm for organic farming, learning more from Shizuo day after day. His father-in-law had taught him the ways of farming from the ground up, and while things had been rocky between them at first, their friendship was now growing strong. Pausing to wipe his brow, he smiled at the acreage around him. The acreage? That's supposed to be acreage? He looked forward to tending the crops he'd sowed until harvest came around. If he'd stayed on as a detective, he might well have never found the joy he had in his new work. And this wasn't the only seed Kano had planted. By the time harvest season came around, the new life growing within his dear Rumi's belly would be ready to celebrate it with them. Bad end? Is that really a bad end? Alright, I don't need to hear the hint on this one. Kano went after Rumi in Shibuya, proving his devotion and earning a hand in marriage. Now he's a farmer in Nagano, and crime in Tokyo is someone else's problem. But hang on a sec. Where were Rumi and Shibuya waiting at the cafe like they were supposed to be? Well, there's no way for Kano to know about how one man's bit of curiosity at that cafe led to this strange twist of fate. That was one of the weirdest bad endings. My gosh. It's gotta be Achi. Let's go, Achi. Achi and Hitomi scampering through the back roads along the center guy, white sneakers and pumps slapping on the pavement. Achi kept his eyes peeled, continually checking ahead and behind as they darted through the gaps between the buildings. Finally, they stopped in a narrow alley. There's no way he'll find us here, he said. No one knows about this place. He took another look around and let out a sigh of relief. It seemed they'd managed to shake the gunman for now. Back when Achi was with SOS. SOS, the abbreviation for Studs of Shibuya, the name given to the group by Achi when he founded it. Originally just a bunch of like-minded young people hanging out together, it has since become known as a gang that picks fights around Shibuya. He had come through Center Guy practically every day. The gang had started out as little more than a group of local teens. They didn't do much in particular, just horsing around and killing time. What mattered was that they were having fun. But it wasn't long before it wasn't fun, all fun and games. Achi couldn't help but notice the slobs who were making a mess of Shibuya, dirtying it all up. He wasn't about to let them get away with it. Most frequently, it was folks who tossed cigarette butts out on the street of plastered walls and graffiti. When they didn't respond to his more gentle warnings, he found slightly more forceful ways of getting his point across. SOS got a reputation. Street punks started trying to pick fights with its members. These guys required a bit more force to handle. And when it came to the worst of the lot, the drug dealers, the muggers, the guys who tried to force themselves on women, it was full-on battle, no holds barred. Before long, SOS had established itself as something of a vigilante corps. Soon it became known as one of the biggest gangs in Shibuya. Let's lay dough down here for a bit and see what happens, Achi said. The alley where they hid was like a dimly lit chasm, obscuring them from view. The only problem now was figuring out what to do next. They needed to find that blue van again, which meant figuring out the best way to get back to Dogonzaka without the man with the cane catching them once more. Achi? Hitomi whispered. I think I can handle myself from here. She got to her feet and gave Achi a deep bow. Whoa! Achi held up a hand. We've been over this already. You're not going to be okay. That guy has a gun. If he let her go up against that assassin alone, he might as well be the one to pull the trigger himself. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me, Hitomi continued, as if she hadn't heard him. She started to shuffle out of the alleyway. Hey! What did I just say? Really, Achi, I appreciate your concern, but I can't in good conscience put you in any danger anymore. But, I mean, Achi tried to press the point, but Hitomi cut him off. There's no good reason for you to risk yourself to keep helping me. Her tone was resolute. Achi was determined to help her anyway. He refused to back down. Still, Achi was determined to help her anyway. He refused to back down. Look, I want to help people who are in trouble. What's so wrong about that? Huh? He locked eyes with Hitomi, willing her to understand. I'm not the most dependable guy, I know that. But still, Hitomi dropped her gaze, and Achi trailed off, feeling like an idiot. Oh, it's no use. I'm no use. He hung his head with a sigh. Just then, a bit of light shone into the alleyway from above. It looked like someone on the adjacent buildings up before came in lights. Who is that someone? Tama! Interesting. The Nokane building. This multi-tenant building has 7 floors, but a decade-old urban legend tells of a mysterious 13th floor. 13? Really? That's usually not... That's more of a U.S. thing. A Diet Aid sales demo is being held on one of the upper floors today. The light illuminated Hitomi's face. When Hachi saw the look in her eyes, he reconsidered his decision. She was trying her hardest to hide it, but she was clearly terrified. No way was he letting her go back out there alone. Still, if he tried to insist, she would only refuse him again. Hitomi, humor me for a second here. Tell me, what's the proper way to dispose of a plastic bottle? She stared at him in surprise. Well, first you remove the cap and the wrapper, then you rinse out the inside and crush it. Hachi let out the breath he'd been holding. Okay, good. Huh? I don't understand. What's good? You gave me my reason why I have to help you out. I super respect people who respect the environment. I'm one of those, whatchamacallits, an environmentalist? Hachi pointed at his mean, clean t-shirt. Hitomi hesitated. And what was your plan if I had said the answer was to toss the plastic in with the trash? Well, then I need to stick with you to help you teach you. Environmental awareness begins with good education. So then you were going to tag along with me regardless. Look, I'm just super pumped to learn that you care so much about proper recycling. Hachi cracked a huge grin. Okay then. Okay? If you're really not that sure about it, I guess I could use your help a little while longer. Hitomi flashed him a little smile. Man, she's so cute, Hachi thought. Then something else caught his eye. Huh? What's that there? It looked like something black was stuck to the top of her head. Hachi, what are you staring at? You've got something stuck there. What? On my head? Without thinking, Hitomi reached up and plucked it off. It was about 10 centimeters long, its body a glistening black, sporting feelers and several pairs of legs. It began to writhe and wriggle between Hitomi's slender fingers. Ah! Hachi yelped. It's a cockroach! He jumped backward, but Hitomi didn't so much as flinch. Whew. Sorry, that gave me a bit of a start, he continued. Guess it must have fallen from one of the windows up there? Still, Hitomi did not move. Hitomi? She didn't appear to hear him. Hello? Hitomi? Oh. With a muffled gargle, Hitomi passed out on the spot, her body stiff as an animal. Huh? Hitomi, are you okay? Hitomi! 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 But no matter how loudly Hachi called her name, Hitomi would not come to. Is this a bad end? Oh, it's not. Oh wait, no. This is leading into a bad end. I know it is. From that day onward, Hachi devoted even more of his time. Yeah, this is a bad end. Sorry. Devoted even more of his time and energy to collecting trash. It became his personal passion to see that his city was a clean one, devoid of cockroaches. That was the mandate he'd been handed, or if nothing else, his atonement. Did she die of a cockroach? Excuse me? What? No, tell me what's going on. Hitomi passed out after a cockroach fell onto her head from out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere exactly. Hitomi and Hachi were right underneath the Nokane building, where they're selling Burning Hammer. A cat and a cockroach had been fighting it out on one of the upper floors. The cat was victorious, but if it had run away instead, things would have turned out differently down below. Okay, thanks. So that lets us know we have to deal with Tama, but like... What? What? Okay. I guess we're going to Tama's storyline. In 1 hour, the Burning Hammer sales demo will begin. Cherry is laying out the assortment of snacks that we'll have on hand. Hey, Tama, you hungry? Well, yes, I am. I mean, that should be pretty obvious at this point. All I've had since putting on this stupid mascot costume is some burning hammer and a bunch of iced tea. Hey now, Cherry shoots back. What's with the attitude? Cherry, you do remember that you ate my lunch, right? The sticker said it was best before noon. You just made that up. Yeah. Cherry chortles merrily and chugs some more iced tea. Okay, folks. Mr. Yanagishita calls out as he slips into the room. Lunch break's over. Back to work. I don't feel like I've had much of a break. If anything, I'm even more mentally exhausted than I was before. There's a box full of Anagachi toys in the storeroom on the 3rd floor. Mind bringing them down? Anagachi? I ask. What's that? You know, I just noticed something. Everyone else's storyline is told in a third-person limited style, and Tama's is in first-person style. I don't know why it didn't hit me before, but, like, I wonder why that is. That's weird. The name makes it sound like some sort of product knockoff. Mr. Yanagishita's face widens in surprise. You've never heard of him? You know, Anagachi. It's a digital pet game where you raise an eel that lives in Tokyo Bay. Anagachi. A portable electronic game in which you raise a conger eel, Anago, feeding it direct daily and clearing away feces. Depending on how you raise your eel, it can wind up developing into various forms, normal eel to ultimate eel sushi. You can also use the infrared communication feature to bring over friends for your eel from another nearby Anagachi device. There is also a sister product, Trout Watch. By connecting the two, you can view a special event where the eel and trout characters go to a pub together. Never heard of it, I say. Huh, well, I guess maybe a lot of people in Japan haven't heard of it yet. But it's all the rage now with youngsters over in New York City. New York City? Oh, NYC. Yeah, he must be in New York City. I just automatically translated it. It's popular in New York, really? Anyway, I did some quick checking, and that's what I learned. So last month, I bought up a whole bunch of them. And once again, you were swindled. Yep. Ouch, Cherry dropping the hard truth. Mr. Yanagishita lets out a pathetic whimper. Oh my gosh, what a picture. No! Just like that, his confidence evaporates. He starts muttering to himself. I thought it sounded a little fishy, really. Mean. Think about it. Why would kids in New York be interested in raising eels from Tokyo Bay? He muses. And what appeal would an eel character even have anyway? None, that's what. I should have known that. I did know it. Then why'd you buy them? This farce is getting tiresome. Anyway, Yanagishita continues, it was going to cost way too much to keep them in storage, so I'm just going to let the recycling guy take them. He hangs his head in shame. In a matter of moments, he's borderline catatonic. Borderline catatonic. The type of eel that gives Anagachi its name, Anago, can be loosely translated as the creature that lives in a hole. Mr. Yanagishita is probably wishing he could crawl into a hole right about now. Cheery, on the other hand, flashes a big, bright grin. Still, you know, eel's pretty delicious. Oh, Cheery, Yanagishita blurts. Thank you. He clasped her hands in gratitude. I wasn't exactly complimenting you there, boss. It's the same thing. There's a little bit of me in each of my products. Anagachi and I are one of the same. A brief Anagachi gameplay quip. The trick is to feed your eel proper food and give it proper exercise. Another important strategy tip is to make sure to retain the sharp chef's knife when you visit Kappabashi Kitchen Town partway through the game. What? So you're raising the eel to eat it. I love it. Just say eels and I are one and the same. Go on then. Say something nice about eels. Cherry chimes in without missing a beat. Eels are awesome. When it comes to eel sushi, 100 pieces barely whets my appetite. You know, these two make quite a pair. It really means a lot to me, Cherry. Thank you. Thank you. I don't understand what any of this is about, but if it helps mend Mr. Yanagishita's wounded spirits, I guess I can't complain. I leave them to their devices and head for the storeroom. The storeroom door opens with a rough grating sound. Okay, now where's that light switch? I fumble around in the dark, feeling for the switch box. My costume paws mute the sensations in my hands enough that even finding that is difficult. I bat at the wall willy-nilly until eventually the lights come on. Apparently I find the switch, even if I didn't feel it. Whoa. What the heck is this? The storeroom is practically overflowing with shoddy goods. A painting that looks like a child's scribblings, an oddly shaped hat bearing the words "Grow 2 inches, guaranteed." A cheap-looking pendant with a tag that says that's set with a miracle stone. Miracle stone. The stones are nothing more than a simple glass bead. They were purchased at 5,000 yen apiece. The seller claimed normally these sell for 10,000 a pop, but if you buy 100 of them, I'll give you half off, at which the buyer declared it really is a miracle, before joyfully agreeing to the purchase. The fact that someone like Yanagashita actually exists to buy these things up is also kind of a miracle. It's like this is the knockoff boneyard where cheap products go to die. They break away from their pathetic herd, knowing their time has come, and end up in this graveyard of a storeroom. Let's see, Anagachi. I quickly spy the cardboard box I'm looking for. Then I catch sight of a dark silhouette out of the corner of my eye. Eek! It's one of them. Them. Black, flat, quick, long antenna, often spotted in kitchens. Sometimes, somehow, their legs wind up in restaurant food. Ew! The size, the speed, the dark shape, it couldn't be anything else. It peers back at me from the shadow of the Anagachi box, the faint light catching the luster of its carapace. It looks ready to leap out at me at any moment. I need to act fast. If we do that one, we're going to end up with, you know, the bad end we had, so let's get out of here. I snatch up the cardboard box and make a run for it. Phew, I made it. When I get back to the break room, Mr. Yanagashita is still clutching Cherry's hands. My meal's super tasty when you salt broil it too. Thank you! The tempura style is probably the best. Thank you! And Mr. Yanagashita's spirits have certainly turned around. Okay, got it! Hold up the big cardboard box. Excellent, thank you. You girls are the greatest! Yanagashita shouts. His voice resounds with gratitude. Hey, that's it! I just got an amazing idea. Why don't the three of us start our own company? I'll pass. Cheer and I respond in unison. Man, you two shot that one down quick. Oh well, for today, we just focus on selling Burning Hammer. By the way, I ask, where is the Burning Hammer? There wasn't any in the storeroom. I don't see any here either. Oh, that's right, it's out back on the loading dock. We should probably go bring it in. Oh, and bring the Onagachis with you too. The recycling guy's going to be showing up soon. Come on, let's go. Cheer and I follow Mr. Yanagashita out to the loading dock. But the loading dock, it turns out, is empty. There's no sign of the Burning Hammer anywhere. It's gone, Mr. Yanagashita murmurs. And his voice rises to a shout. It's gone! All gone! The Burning Hammer, it's all gone! Flying into a panic, he searches frantically from one end of the dock to the other, leaping into the air, even peering down into the cracks. But no matter where he looks, there's nothing for him to find. It was right here a while ago, like right here. Right here. I hear the sound of an engine running outside. Mr. Yanagashita cries out in alarm. We can see a truck starting to pull away. Its bed is piled with cardboard boxes and other assorted trash. Hey, boss? Is that... Yes, there it is. Mr. Yanagashita begins racing after the truck. My Burning Hammer! His voice cracks as he cries out, Give that back! Give it back! But he's no match for a speeding truck, and the boxes of Burning Hammer vanish before his eyes. Burning Hammer! Come back! Come back! Is this a bad end? Yanagashita's wailing echoes from the surrounding buildings. It's like something out of a movie. What the hell? What's up with that truck? Tama? What the heck was that? He didn't look at me, I reply. Huh? Those pile of stuff that look like the recycling guy. As soon as he says it, revelation draws on his face. The recycling guy, he mutters. I can see the color draining from his face. This word's recycling guy gave me an idea. If it was him, maybe he thought he was picking up the Anagachis by mistake. We have to find it! We have to find that truck! The man is absolutely beside himself. Chiri, Tama, you two split up and try to track it down. Wait, why do we have to look for it? Again, Chiri and I speak in chorus. If there's this no sales demo, there's no money to pay you, and then all the work you've done will be for nothing. Right, when he puts it that way, I guess there isn't much of a choice. Somehow or another, we'll have to find that truck. Can't have gotten far, he continues. Now go hunt for it like your life depended on it. Cherry and I look at each other and sigh. How do you want to do this, she asks. Want to search together? Or should we split up? Let's go together. And so Cherry and I head out in search of the truck. As we make our way down Center Guy, peering in all directions, I accidentally bump into a man who's out with his daughter. Ow! Pardon me! I hop back to my feet and bow to the man in apology. Ow! He bows at the same time when we manage to bonk our heads together. So sorry. As her dad drops to his knees, clutching his head, the girl begins to wander off. Anna, wait! The man lurches to his feet and rushes after the girl. Oop. He seems like an odd kid, only 10 or so, but strangely cold and distant. As we make our way down the road, Chiri's eyes light upon a cafe. Man, am I super hungry, she mutters. Not now! We have to find that truck! Yeah, I know. I stride purposely along, and though Chiri flashes the eatery a long, lingering look, she falls into step behind me. Chiri and I wander around town for another 10 minutes or so. We don't see any sign of the truck, though. Ugh, I sigh. It really is good and gone, huh? I turn to look back at Chiri. Huh? Wait, what? Chiri's gone. She must have slipped away from me at some point. I take a quick look around, but there's no sign of her. When did she split off? She was just there 2 or 3 minutes ago. It's 12:35. The sales demo starts in 25 minutes. What do? I don't have time to go looking for Chiri. I still have to keep searching for the truck by myself then. But I have no clues to go on, so I don't know how I'm ever going to find it. Ugh! What should I do? Oh, we had a keep out. Okay. But we just changed Achi's story, so let's go deal with that, shall we? Okay then. Okay. If you're really not sure about it, I guess I could use your help a little while longer. They told me it flashed him a little smile. Man, she's so cute, Achi thought. And there's not a cockroach now. The day has been saved. Sneaking out from the alley, Achi and Hitomi begin to make their way along the side streets back towards Dogenzaka. It was a pretty big detour compared to taking the main thoroughfares, but that would be worth it if it meant they avoided the man with the cane. Achi looked over at Hitomi as she walked alongside him. Her face was solemn. He could feel the intensity of her worry for her sister. Ooh, well, look who's got himself a little cutie. The sudden call startled him. He spun around. Yo, mean clean, over here. Achi spotted a young man ahead, sneering at him. At his side were 2 others. Achi recognized the lot. SOS. Hitomi let out a nervous squeak. Achi? Don't worry about them. He led her onward, attempting to stride right past the trio. Whoa, hey now. You just gonna ignore me? That's pretty damn rude, especially coming from someone who used to be an old buddy. The 3 toughs moved to our Achi's path. Ooh, she is hella fine. Ain't you gonna introduce us? Hang on. Wait, which... Extremely attractive. The etymology of hella is somewhat unclear, but its meaning is undisputed. Very, a lot of, totally, and the like. Potentially synonyms for hella fine include mighty fine, fine as hell, and banging. A big hurry, huh? Where to? Some love hotel and Mariyamocho? Too rich, another champion. She a screamer, Achi? Achi. Take a stereotypical way to poke fun at a would-be amorous couple. Now take Achi's name. There you go. They burst out howling like a gang of monkeys. One of them cackled like a grinning idiot. Achi, Achi, Achi. Achi felt his anger boil. But there was too much at stake. He was just going to have to suck it up and ignore them. I think at this point that beating these guys up is not going to give us what we need. Getting his tiki tried to slip past him, but the largest they grabbed him by the collar. You ran out, man. Susumu's the one who runs this town now. You got no right to keep acting like you're the boss of us. He shoved Achi up against the wall. Says who? Achi asked. Susumu? Say what now? Did Susumu say I've got no right to act like the boss? Bitch, please. Susumu ain't got time to worry about your sorry ass. Oh, is that so? Achi's fist flashed out, catching the man clean on the jaw. He dropped to the ground with a dull thud. So tell Susumu this. Everyone in Shibuya needs to play nice and have fun. Achi kept his tone light and jovial, but he eyed the two other toughs like a hawk eyeing its prey. Is he gonna be alright? Tomi murmured. She looked at the man Achi had laid out with some concern. Oh, he'll be fine. If that's all it took to knock him out, he's not some badass. Achi, huh? I don't believe I've had the pleasure. A taller man with an angry gleam in his eyes appeared atop the steps nearby. He must have turned up during the commotion. He radiated a distinct aura of menace. That's me, Achi replied. Just who were you? For once, it was someone he didn't recognize. The name is Yoji Kiryu. Used to roll with a gang from Ikebukuro until a few months ago, known as the Killer Whale of Bukuro. He answered any and all resistance with his fists. His crazy antics led to him getting kicked out of the gang, however, and lately he's been hanging around Shibuya. Is this guy a Yakuza parody? Because, Kiryu's the main character of most of the Yakuza games, and he's the Dragon of Dojima, the Killer Whale of Bukuro, and he beats everybody up. I joined up with SOS after you left. Now I'm Susumu's number 2 guy. The newcomer stood at Achi's face, sizing him up. Our legendary founder. I've heard so much about you. The founder. It had been a long time since anybody called him that. There'd been a bunch of arguing over who would take charge of the new group that was forming to set things straight in Shibuya. At some point, folks had started hailing him as the force behind SOS. But founder, they were just something his buddies called him. He'd never paid him much heed. Shibuya was a place for fun and hierarchies. At least in Achi's mind, that was how it ought to be. Like how you busted up some mean old drug dealers, rescued your pals from Yakuza bondage. Here, bondage is strictly used in the sense of captivity. Any other types of Yakuza bondage will not be featured in this game. Sorry if the tip link got your hopes up. You're a real hero. Kiryu's tongue flicked from his mouth like snakes. Nice. Tomi shuddered. Achi couldn't blame her for being creeped out. But that's all in the past now, isn't it? Kiryu continued. You went modestly on your way. It's up to us now. And we've helped SOS grow by leaps and bounds to help carry on your legacy, no matter who stands in your way. That thought didn't sit right with Achi. If aggressive expansion was the name of the game was losing touch with its roots. It wasn't about keeping Shibuya safe and fun anymore. Make SOS bigger, huh? He said. I'm guessing that was Susumu's call as well. Kiryu didn't answer this question. His mouth merely twisted into a knowing sneer. In any event, I think these boys here need a little lesson in manners. The guillotine ought to do the trick. The guillotine, a capital punishment device invented in 18th century France. The condemned is executed by decapitation, by means of a heavy blade that descends from above. Named for physician Joseph Ignace Guillotine, who advocated its use to the National Assembly. Both King Louis and Marie Antoinette were executed by guillotine. The other gang members started an alarm. Whoa, hey, just calm down. Please, anything but the guillotine. Kiryu pointedly ignored their pleas. Hey, what's the guillotine? Achi asked. Kiryu smirked. The guillotine is the guillotine. With me, worms. Without a glance back, Kiryu strolled away. His 2 underlings followed him unhappily. Achi wondered what lay in store for them, but right now he had more important things to worry about. Come on, let's go. He took Itome by the hand, and they were back on their way. Hey, that's the song from earlier. Oh, Hitomi perked up. That's me. She reached in her pocket and took out her cell phone. That's me. I mean, like, that's my phone, but does that have another meaning? Huh? She stared at the screen with consternation. What is it? Achi asked. It's an email from Mr. Tanaka. Who is Mr. Tanaka? He works with my father. I'm not sure what I should do. Achi remembered that the criminal had warned her against contacting her family or the police. She seemed reluctant to even open this message. I'm sure it's fine to just read an email, he said. And besides, he's not the police, and he's not your family. Yeah, you're right. Hitomi scanned the message anxiously. It sounds like he's worried about me, she said. Then does he know? About the kidnapping? Yes, I know my father trusts him. And he's always been so... Hitomi cut herself short. Still, it was clear to Achi that she and this Tanaka person had some sort of close relationship. I wonder if it's safe for me to let him know what the situation is. I think it should be, Achi told her. I mean, the kidnappers aren't going to know you sent an email, right? Hitomi began typing out a response. Achi watched over her, wild speculations running through his mind. There was no way a mild-mannered young lady like her could be dating one of her father's co-workers, was there? Her father. That would jump to Osawa, but we don't need to yet. Unless she was all about finding herself a sugar daddy. No, he was being ridiculous. Achi banished the thought from his mind. Besides, Hitomi's personal life wasn't the problem right now. The problem was that psycho with the cane and the gun. Is something wrong? Hitomi asked. She finished sending her email. Oh no, nothing. Nothing at all. Achi did his best to look nonchalant. It was a good thing she couldn't read his mind. They exited Center Gai and resumed their approach toward Duganzaka by way of Maruyamocho. Another long detour increased their odds of running into Kano. Maruyamocho. There are many hotels in Maruyamocho. These are not ordinary establishments, but rather the sort of hotel where two people who are so inclined might, redacted, a couple heading to this place in the early afternoon, without a doubt, be assumed to be bent on redacted. You might be wondering whether or not the option for these two to get up to mischief will appear as a selection prompt. Well, don't get your hopes up. That isn't this kind of game. They made an unlikely pair. Scruffy Achi, limbs lackadaisically swinging to hide his embarrassment, and brisk, purposeful Hitomi. Achi found himself watching her out of the corner of his eye. He could still feel her anxiety. He wished there was some way he could ease her fears. Hey, Hitomi, mind if I ask you something? Sure, go ahead. Okay, so, I realize this might be kind of a weird question, but he put on a serious face. What does the eco and eco-friendly mean? Huh? I know it's about helping the Earth and all, but I don't know what it really means, you know? Hitomi thought for a moment. I'm pretty sure if it's short for the English word ecology, which is the science of examining the relationship between man and nature. Ecology, a subset of biology that deals with the reciprocal relationship between organisms and their environment. Nowadays, the term can also refer to cultural and social effects on the global environment. The latter usage can be broad and imprecise, making the exact meaning somewhat difficult to define. Alright, science! Pleased with himself, Achi chatted on excitedly. A faint smile crept onto Hitomi's face. Say, you ever hear about the clean river here in Shibuya? The clean river? In Shibuya? Really? Ask 100 youngsters outside of Shibuya Station the same question. You'd probably get that same answer 100 times. Yeah, the Shibuya River. You know that drainage channel we saw earlier? Wait, what? That's the clean river you're talking about? By no reasonable definition is the Shibuya River what anyone would call clean. That's the one, Achi grinned at her confusion. See, the river used to be clean a long time ago. I read about it in this old book called Science Strikes Back. A popular monthly magazine abbreviated SSB, the series has been running for 29 years now, but the Strike Back appendix is still immensely popular with children. The woman who handles the home deliveries is known as the SSB lady, and children wait excitedly on the 25th of each month for her to make her rounds. I used to have that book, Hitomi chirped, her eyes wide with excitement. You're talking about that bit of the river that got turned into a song, right? The famous 1912 song Haru no Ogawa, The Spring Brook, with lyrics by Tatsuyuki Takano and music by Teiichi Kano. It is said that the song was inspired by the view of the upper course of the Shibuya River during Kano's childhood. In the modern day, there's a stone monument bearing the song's lyrics along the O-Dakyu line between Yoyogi Hachiman and Sangobashi. Yeah, that's the one. You read it too? I did! Achi felt a giddy rush at this unexpected connection they shared. Imagine if there was still a clean, beautiful river here in Shibuya. It'd be the perfect place for taking a romantic stroll. Hitomi looked up at Achi. He seemed to share his joy in this idea. Wouldn't it be amazing, Achi said, if that dirty little channel could be too clean like it used to be? It would. Maybe as amazing as the look on Hitomi's face right now, Achi thought. Hitomi, tell me some more ecology stuff. Hit me with whatever you got. She seemed happy to oblige, and so as they walked along, Hitomi explained the bits of knowledge he picked up over the years. Achi was quiet, hanging on her every word. They returned to Gogen-Saka and an impromptu environmentalism lecture. Hitomi continued until she'd exhausted her ready knowledge. I just don't get it, Achi grumbled when she paused at last. I mean, why is it a bad thing if the planet gets warmer? Wouldn't that make winter in places like Hokkaido way easier? No, you see, because if the whole planet gets warmer, it'll cause the whole ecosystem to collapse. Achi racked his brain. That was a great movie, an inconvenient truth. And the ecosystem is what again? Is that like a solar system? Images of the cosmos filled his imagination. No, not really, Hitomi said. So it's more like a sound system. Not really. Oh, but anyway, you're saying the problem is with the, what was it again? Carbon dioxide. Oh, yeah, that stuff. I'm gonna have to cut down on that. Sure. That settles it, Achi declared proudly. No more soda for me. Soda? Hitomi asked. Yeah, it's carbonated, right? Hitomi burst out laughing. What? I'm serious. You don't think I can do it? I'm sorry, Hitomi said, catching her breath. It's just... Her face froze, her mirth abruptly vanishing. Oh no. Huh? Achi stared at her face in alarm. What is it? He turned his attention in the direction Hitomi was looking. The man with the cane was bearing down on him. Oh, come on! You have got to be kidding me! He grabbed Hitomi's hand and ran. This time he headed for the main road, hoping to get lost in the crowd. Hitomi struggled to keep up. She was exhausted after all the earlier running. You can do it, he told her. The guy's got a cane. We can outrun him. The assassin was still hurrying after them. Once we get around the next corner, we'll be out on the main road. Yeah, okay. She strained to get the words out. Bit by bit, her feet were slowing down. It was another 50 meters or so to the main road. Achi realized that they might get caught before they got there. Sorry, Hitomi explained, but I gotta do this. He scooped her up in his arms. Eep! By the time the squeak had escaped her mouth, Achi was already running full out. Achi, please put me down. Don't worry, you're super light. Achi glanced back and saw the assassin, now far behind, break off his pursuit. But just as the rounded the corner, he heard the man call out, Achi almost stopped on reflex. Hold on, did he just shout my name? How the heck does he know my name? Quaking with unease, Achi slipped in the crowd. Achi, could you please set me down now? A meek voice pulled him from his panic. Huh? He looked down at the girl in his arms. People in the crowd all around them were watching and chuckling. I mean, I'm really happy you saved me and all. But being carried around like this is, Hitomi was blushing, beet red, but Achi's expression had gone pale. Achi, wait! Had he really heard that right? That's what it had sounded like. He set Hitomi back on her feet, then used his shirt sleeve to wipe the sweat from his face. You okay? Hitomi asked. When we were running just now, did that guy say anything? Not that I heard, no. Huh. Had he just imagined it, then? Maybe. Achi was sure he didn't recognize the man. There's something weird about that guy, though, Hitomi murmured. She furrowed her brow. No matter where we run, he keeps catching up to us. It's almost like he knows where we're going. She was right. Finding a particular pair of people in a place as big as Shibuya bordered on the impossible. And yet somehow, the assassin had tracked them down several times now. Yeah, Achi said. It's like he's got some way of locating us or something. He got a sudden idea. That's it. What if they're doing the whole tracking thing, but like backwards? What? Hitomi's eyes widened. Okay, so you know how in police shows they always stick a tracking device in the bag with the ransom money? Like that, but backwards? Tracking device. Okay, so backwards is not the right way to describe this, but Achi doesn't realize that. He does seem to know what a tracking device is, at least. A radio transmitter that can be located by the signal it emits. The Japanese police sometimes refer to this as a beeper, not to be confused with the English slang term beeper, meaning a pager. Backwards? Yeah, like, instead of putting the tracker on the money, they put it on you. He told me frowned. I don't see how I could possibly have a tracker on me, she said. I mean, I'm just wearing my clothes from home. Uh-huh, well then, how is he doing it then? Barely a moment passed from the moment he got the words out of his mouth. Once again, the man with the cane stepped out on the road ahead of them. It really did seem as if he'd known exactly where they were going to be. How the hell is this happening? Achi groaned. He reached for Hitomi's waist and picked her up again. It's okay, I can run by myself. Achi took her by the hand instead and they raced into another alley. This guy just will not give up. At the far end of the alley, he could see a forklift parked beside a pile of cardboard boxes. Achi decided to... I feel like option B, hopping into the forklift and driving, is going to get us killed. So let's throw the boxes. Ugh! Achi snatched the nearest box, turned and threw it at the man with the cane. The box was filled with something heavy. This ought to do some damage. He watched with satisfaction and struck the assassin in the face. The man staggered sideways. Here, have another! One by one, Achi hurled every box in the pile. And one for the road! The last box wasn't properly sealed. It broke open and struck their pursuer, sending several bottles flying. They shattered as they crashed into the street. Oh no! The assassin dropped to one knee, scrubbing at his face with his hand. Achi looked on in surprise. He couldn't possibly hit the guy that hard. Peering at the man more closely, he saw that he was spattered in red liquid. Apparently, the stuff from the bottles had gotten in his eyes. Now's our chance. Achi took off with it. I feel like that messed something up for Tama. Leaving there, because that's definitely Burning Hammer. Leaving their pursuer kneeling in the alley. Their ragged breathing echoed through the maze of side streets. All that work just to wind up fleeing for their lives again. Achi ground his teeth in frustration. There are two main types of teeth grinding. The subconscious act of gritting one's teeth together while asleep. Or, gritting one's teeth together as a response to anger or frustration. Here we have an example of two. At roughly the same time, though, Minoru Minorikawa is grinding his teeth while trying to keep to his schedule. We don't have access to Minorikawa's story yet. Hitomi, he groaned when they slowed down to catch their breath at last. I'm so sorry. Hitomi was nonplussed. Sorry? Whatever for? I keep saying how I'm going to help you, but instead I just keep putting you in danger. Achi, no. If you hadn't been with me, I'm sure I'd already be... No! Achi heard he cut her off before she could finish. Don't go there, please. He sighed, then spoke again more quietly. I just want to help you. Clenching a fist, he looked up at the sky. A tiny sliver of blue was visible through the narrow gap between the buildings. Hitomi hung her head. Honestly, I can hardly believe how much you've done for me. I do appreciate it, but still, the lengths you've gone to... Achi looked at his feet and then drew himself up. Well, I admit it's not just because of some gut instinct or your love for the environment, he said. There's another reason I'm doing this. There is? Achi paused, searching for the right words. I've got a little sister. Her name's Suzune. She's cute and smart. Kind of the exact opposite of me, you know? His voice took on an uncharacteristic solemnity. But she's got a weak heart, so she's in the hospital. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But what does that have to do with wanting to help me? Back when Suzune was first admitted, I'd go and visit her every day. But she... Hachi, you don't need to come visit me every day, you know. The quiet hospital room made Suzune's voice sound all the more frail. What are you talking about? Hachi said. You know I'm worried about you. I'll be fine on my own, really. Hachi had heard that line before. The more she insisted she was fine, though, the more reluctant he was to leave her. Besides, aren't you the amazing guy who helps hold Shibuya together? They need you out there. Hachi didn't know how to respond to that. Much as it was flattering to think he played some important role, he was really just hanging out and goofing off with his pals. It certainly wasn't anything for his sister to be proud of. I'd rather you spent your energy helping people who need it more than me. What do you mean people who need the help more? Who could possibly need the help more right right now more than you. Hachi scratched his head in confusion, and his sister gave him a weak, tiny smile. You'll figure it out, she said. I'm sure they'll find you soon enough, and I'm going to be here with you. I'll be fine. Suzune's face was pale, but her tone was firm. My big brother is going to be out there doing his best to help people. That's what makes me happy. That's what keeps me going. Her voice was clear and unwavering, as if to head off with its rebuttal. Alright, Hachi said with a reluctant sigh. So then I guess, I'll just go out there and help people who are in trouble? Satisfied, Suzune smiled. Thank you. And you could promise me one more thing? Of course. Anything you like. He thumped himself on the chest. If you're going to help someone, make sure you see it all the way through to the end, okay? Okay. No calling it quits partway through, yeah? You got it. I just worry, Suzune said. I know you have a tendency to lose interest in things. Look, don't sweat it. I swear I won't give up on this. Hachi stuck out his pinky finger. But I want you to promise me something in return. Promise me you won't let this thing beat you. Suzune hooked her little finger around her brother's, her sad smile fragile as glass. And so there you have it, Hachi said. Kind of a rubbish story, I know. Not very funny. So your sister's heart condition, it's pretty bad? Hachi nodded. You know, she called me amazing. There's nothing amazing about me, Suzune. She's the amazing one. She's been in the hospital so long and so much pain, but she never complains. All I do is hang out and goof off with my friends. He gave a shrug. But I just kept thinking about how happy she'd be if I really did help people. And it turned out that finding people in need hadn't been all that simple. The only helpful thing Hachi had been able to think of was going around picking up trash. And that's why Suzune's idiot brother left SOS to be Shibuya's garbage man. Did your friends know? Hitomi asked, about your sister? I didn't tell them. I didn't want to pin this all on her being sick. Oh, I see. At least now Hitomi understood what the fight with the local toughs had been about. The sound of approaching footsteps jerked them back into the present. The man with the cane appeared at the end of the alley. He raised his gun. There was no time to flee. Hachi quickly stepped in front of Hitomi. If you shoot us here, people are going to come running, he said. I'm guessing you don't want to get pegged for murder. The assassin didn't flinch. Stay out of my way, Hachi. This time there was no doubt. The gunman had spoken Hachi's name loud and clear. How do you know who I am? The man stared at him through the sights of his gun. She has to die, Hachi. It's for your own good. What? What does he mean? Hitomi whispered. Hachi, what is he talking about? Hachi's mind was a whirl. Things were coming at him too fast to process. I don't know this guy. Hitomi, please, you have to believe me. But Hitomi took a doubtful step away from Hachi. The assassin didn't miss his opening. He quickly aimed at her. Cut the crap, man. What do you mean, killing her is for my own good? Once she's dead, you'll understand. The gunman's finger tightened on the trigger. To be continued. I would have thought Hachi was going to be the rough-looking guy who forced Kano's father-in-law out of the diner, but Hachi's story is getting interesting. Alright, well, I think that's actually a good place to call it for the night. I am super into this story, though, and I want to know where things go. But we'll have to keep playing next week. See you then.